a debt crisis every quarter, it seems like. And in that whole debt ceiling thing, that's more of a concept than a reality, isn't it?
Well, in some ways, it is definitely something that the Congress essentially it's a statutory limit they imposed on themselves many years ago, and they have over the last couple decades had to repeatedly raise. Essentially, think of it as like a credit card limit, right? They keep bumping up against their limit, and they raise their limit. The difference is that they're determining how much their limit is, whereas with a credit card, you've got to get the lender to approve. But yeah, so in some ways it's a manufactured crisis, I suppose. The reason it's in the news is that Congress likes to adjourn in August and take some time off, and the latest everyone needs a vacation, I guess. It's got to be a tough job. Anyway, the latest projections are that we will hit that debt limit in I think early September, presumably while they're still out. So there's some pressure on themselves to clarify all this before they go home and I guess basically probably spend some time campaigning or doing whatever they do.
Oh, I would think they're going to campaign. Absolutely. Maybe they'll do nothing. I don't know. I've done a lot of nothing this summer as well. I had some vacation days and I used them.
There you go.
And I didn't think about the debt crisis once. If there is a term that's overused when it comes to the economy, is debt crisis. I mean, we have been facing debt crises for years, and I'm beginning to wonder about the degree of crises that we're facing now.
Sure. So I mean, there's certainly some fatigue here on this issue because we've heard it so many times.
Oh yeah.
But there was a chart in so Chris Edwards at Cato wrote the op-ed you mentioned, and there was a short blog post, I think there's a link in there to it, where it has a chart from the Congressional Budget Office showing federal debt held by the public since 1790, basically back to the beginning of Congress, and it's it's been on an upward trend ever since about 2000, and so of course this is showing it as a percentage of the economy, as a percentage of GDP, and of course in war times it'll spike, right? So World War II is still the all-time high, but we're now at the peacetime high and rising, and we're above World War I, Civil War, all that, and we're getting close to World War II, honestly, and there was a comparison to other kind of market economies. 33 of them, we were ranked 9th in terms of how much debt we have as a country, government debt as a country, compared to these other high-income nations. So we're not doing so well. And when you factor in the state government stuff, state and local stuff, we're already over 100% of GDP. We're at about 110. And when Greece had its crisis, they were at about 121%. So we're getting close to Greece levels, Michael. So that's Christ. That's something to worry about, I think. That's not something we want to emulate.
Well, I would point out, and your friend Christopher Edwards here in his piece in The Hill points out that in 2008, prior to the run-up to the financial crisis of 2008, there were a number of economists, perhaps even you, Dean, who missed the whole thing. Didn't see it coming. Oh, what happened? Oh, the economy collapsed. Wow, we didn't see that coming. There are various reasons given for the Great Recession. Of course, I think the mortgage brokers really screwed everybody and took all the money and went home. But just to revisit real quickly, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, why did we have the Great Recession of 2008, in your opinion?
Sure. So that's a long story, but I'll try to make it a short story. So your analysis, I don't want to dispute entirely, but one of the reasons the mortgage brokers and the finance people in general were able to do that is that the government let them, government bailed them out. And one of the reasons that the problem existed is that things like the Community Reinvestment Act, a government policy, required these lenders to make a certain percentage of what we would call subprime loans to risky borrowers, and so all of that stuff kind of built on itself, and you had a lot of speculators in the market buying to flip the properties, and eventually it all kind of like a house of cards fell apart. So sure, we're really bad at predicting stuff, and in fact, there was another thing Chris pointed out in this article about how, of course, you remember the Clinton administration when we actually had a budget surplus for
yes,
I think it was maybe 2 years, maybe it wasn't the whole time, but it was a couple of years in a row where we had a surplus, and there was I think the administration itself, or the Congressional Budget Office, was projecting that federal debt, not just the deficit, but the accumulation of debt over the years, would actually hit zero pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because, and of course, that never happened. It turned out to be. They were projecting it to happen by 2015, and by 2015 we had $18 trillion of debt. We're up to about, I think it's 22 at this point. But anyhow, yeah, we're bad at predicting things, no doubt. But the biggest issue here is that if you think about where the interest rate trajectory is going, I don't think you have to be an excellent forecaster to say it's probably going to get higher. But it's already gone up some, and the reason that's a problem is the bigger your share of debt you have, the bigger pile of debt you have. As the rates go up, of course, you're paying more on that debt. So interest payments become a bigger part of the budget. You've got to raise taxes just to keep up with that. And so certainly that, it's an issue. And the real issue, when it comes right down to it, the debt limit, you're right, is kind of this manufactured thing. It's all about spending. I mean, we're spending about twice as much as we were back about 15 years ago, and so it's that these guys and in this you've got the Republican in the White House, and until last November you had Republican control of both houses, and they go in there and they just keep spending even worse than the previous administration, and so it's spending that's the problem. As I think someone said, it's the spending stupid, or maybe I'm mixing the metaphor, but it's the spending that really represents. I think it was Friedman that talked about Milton Friedman, that the government spending is the true burden on the economy, because that shows all the resources being diverted away from markets to politicians.
I know you're going to take me to the Laffer curve here sooner or later, but I want to follow up a little bit. You talked about a budget surplus under Bill Clinton, who was certainly not my favorite president. George Bush then became president and started two wars and lowered taxes. Now that ever since then, we've had a lot of debt. I guess what I'm getting to
but
is
also before then we have.
Yeah, that's true. And you and I have talked many times over the years that running up the deficit is something that both parties do for their own reasons. A lot of times just to benefit their own congressional districts or whatever, or their own state or their own party. I mean, when you put a bunch of people in charge of taxes who've never even met a payroll in their lives, even the Republicans have no idea what it means. Oh, we have debt? Well, we'll just raise the debt. Can you imagine somebody in business doing that? Hi there. I'm tapped out. I'll just raise the debt limit. Hey, how's that?
Right. Well, they couldn't unless they had a willing lender, right? So
right.
Yeah, that's just
yes, exactly right.
The politicians are living in this kind of fantasy world of their own creation, and you're exactly right that putting so many things in the hands of politicians is a bad idea, which is all the more reason why we ought to have government only do those really small number of things that we really can't do for ourselves. Instead of expanding it to more and more pockets of the economy, we ought to be radically shrinking it so that people can keep more of their own money and thereby make better choices with how that's money used, rather than letting these career politicians do it.
Now, the Laffer curve, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, essentially it means the more you cut taxes, the more taxes come in. That is from an economist by Arthur Laffer.
Okay, can I modify that slightly?
Of course.
Okay, so what Laffer was kind of capturing really from Adam Smith back hundreds of years ago was the idea that there is a kind of a tipping point where revenues get so high, tax rates get so high. In other words, say the income tax rate, was at 90%, I think, when President Kennedy took office back in the 60s, where it gets so high that if you raise it more, people are going to earn less income, right, by working less or sheltering more of their income, so that you'll actually bring in less revenue. It's not that it's always that way, but it's that there is some kind of peak tax rate where above that, increases will reduce revenue, and therefore below that rate, decreases will increase revenue. And that was essentially what Laffer and as an advisor to Ronald Reagan's campaign argued was the case, when I think, if I remember right, when he was running, it was 76% or somewhere around there. It was still quite high. They were essentially saying that at that high of a rate, not at any rate, but at that high of a rate, if you lower it, we'll actually bring in more revenue, because you've got a lot of people who are sheltering their income, and those that income will come onto the books. Essentially,
well, that's the whole idea. Sometimes of controlling interest rates, as we have been, is to get people with money to invest it in the economy, to start businesses, to do a lot of things. There's a lot of money in very few hands. Well, we'll talk about the failure. Well, we'll talk about the failures of capitalism here a little bit later on, but we will move on here to a piece from Markets Insider, also sent to me by Dr. Stansel. Of course, President Trump has thrown an event for American manufacturers from each state. This is American manufacturers, but it left out the countless others that are struggling with his new trade policies. I turn now to Iowa for more on that. And in the northwest quadrant of Iowa it's a very rural part of the world. We're farmers, essentially. We used to have manufacturing. Eaton Corporation, there was a big furniture factory in Milford, Iowa, by the Iowa Great Lakes. Those places are gone now. 16,000 manufacturing jobs have left Iowa over the last several years. And, of course, we have these tariffs and trade wars with China. And the Democrats are making us suffer here in the Midwest because we supported Trump by not passing the USMCA and keep adding extra demands on and on and on. The Democrats, by the way, I don't care what you think of Donald Trump. The Democrats are behaving abhorrently in all of this. Their tactics are just disgusting. But don't let me get started on that. Anyway, at his Made in America showcase, what are we talking about here, Dave?
So it was basically a PR event to promote his protectionist policies, and he brought in one company from each state. So the whole country was represented, and it was out on the South Lawn of the White House on Monday, yesterday. And it was, like I said, just a PR event to promote all the good that his policies allegedly are doing. And I'm sure there are some companies like the ones he brought in who, they weren't, I assume, weren't lying. They actually have benefited in some ways, but as the headline points out, and as the quote from the soybean farmer in Iowa illustrate, it's not true for everyone. And these tariffs are creating a lot of trouble for business in general, in the sense that even for manufacturing firms who can make the most profit by buying their kind of intermediate parts that they bring here into the U.S. to put together, to have assembled here in the U.S. by American workers. If these tariffs mean that they then have to buy those parts from somewhere else at a higher price, well, that limits their ability to stay in business and to be profitable. So that's been one of the biggest impacts across a whole host of industries. A lot of the ones, particularly like the boat building industry that uses steel and aluminum, and where there have been a huge increase in tariffs. So the pain has been spread pretty widely, and what's the opposite of the pleasure has been pretty narrowly concentrated, I think.
Well, if we talk to some people in our state, especially from the Soybean Association, the damage may take years to undo, and the damage may be permanent. We don't know. The tariffs apparently are hurting China, but how deeply are they hurting China? Is China can go to other suppliers? Will the other suppliers be able to meet their needs? I mean, it's a real predicament for the Midwest that, yes, supported Trump, and yes, the Democrats are making us pay for it in the worst possible way. So I like Trump's rah-rah. Nobody's a bigger cheerleader for himself than Donald Trump. And if he can talk about the stock market, he can talk about the unemployment rate, all of those things. But there's a lot of pieces of the economy and a lot of sectors that are hurting quite a bit. He's really a conventional Republican president in that he believes if the stock market is performing well, that's really all, and the economy is all right. That's all we really need. Just keep the business taxes low, and the labor costs low, and we'll just roll right along. Trump is not the devil that some people make him out to be. He's a Republican. He acts like a Republican. He's just kind of a bizarre character at times.
That's a good way to put it. Bizarre character at times. He was basically a lifelong Democrat, though. I mean, he is a Republican indeed, and governing in some ways like a Republican, but he is a bit of an oddball for a Republican, I think, with some of the populist stuff that often doesn't fit with traditional Republicans. But you're right about the business approach, in the sense that he has emphasized greatly, importance of the stock market and the unemployment rate. Well, those are the things that are going well. So of course, that's what we're going to hear about. But yeah, all is not well. Hopefully, we can get some reforms and get some reduction in these tariffs and have some kind of sensible policies put in place, and we can get some common sense notions on spending as well, because there was discussion in the last campaign about the notion that we need to spend less and get slim down government. It's just the reality hasn't really matched up with that rhetoric.
I know Vice President Pence is a committed Christian. I respect that. But I wish he would stop saying we're going to pray for you guys. That's what he said at this manufacturers conference. Prayers sometimes aren't the answer. I'm sure Vice President Pence would disagree with that. But actually, more decisive action is required when we're talking about the economy. And I want to ask you, I don't want to get off into politics here, but I will bring up Michael Bloomberg. Has been both a Republican and a Democrat. And he's very, he is a Republican as others were who are quite wealthy. He is, he insists on cheap labor. He insists on low business taxes, but he's pro-gay marriage. He's pro this. He's pro transgender rights, all these things. And of course, he's donated a considerable portion of his fortune to fighting for gun control. So Mike is definitely his own person there. He's not a doctrinaire Republican or Democrat. That said, I hope that we can find some way out of this tariff business.
Yeah, it kind of illustrates the fundamental bankruptcy of the two-party system, in the sense that people like Bloomberg or Trump can kind of just shift between one or the other and really not have any major waves being created. And I think it illustrates the extent to which the parties don't really very well represent the views of a lot of us, at least. I don't know if most of us would be correct, but there are a lot more people who are registering as independents these days, and I think that's kind of a sign of the times, that because the thing you described, the notion of kind of being fiscally conservative and socially liberal, is something that ties in nicely with the notion of being a libertarian, and it's something that I think a growing share of the population is kind of in that. What may seem like a middle ground of fiscally conservative and socially liberal, that like I said, is very compatible with the notion of libertarianism. And of course, there's always extremes on every direction, but I think that bodes well for the future in some ways, if the politics can match up with if the policies can match up with the politics.
What do you think of the Laffer curve? Did I ask you that earlier? I'm getting kind of.
No, I think it's reasonable, and I think what I tried to do was explain it in a way that kind of, because I think a lot of times it gets pigeonholed as just plain stupid, when in reality that's because people are overly generalizing what it means. It means if rates are above a certain point, cutting them means more revenue will come in because income, the tax base will grow, and so forth. And if rates are at a certain point, if you raise them, you're going to bring in less revenue because people will shelter their income. So that I don't think really is all that disputable or controversial. It's just the way in which it's put to use politically, I think, is where the problems start being created.
Dr. Dean Stanzel and I are talking about an article in Markets Insider. If you go to my Facebook page, AM 1400 KVFD, you'll find it. I want to warn some of you farmers out there that President Trump did say during this conference that the United States didn't lose anything by the fact that China targeted our farmers. So I wanted to put that out there. So you were aware of it, so your head didn't explode when you read it, because I know that's not the prevailing opinion out here in the countryside. Dean, is there anything in closing?
No, I think that covers it. But right after that quote, they quote then a soybean grower in Iowa, in Wilton, Iowa, who's kind of refuting that. They haven't lost, so very appropriate there.
Dr. Dean Stanzel with the O'Neill Center at Southern Methodist University. Thank you, Dean.
Yep, thanks for having me on.
This is AM 1400 KVFD.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Yeah, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. It's 2:33, 27 minutes before 3 o'clock. We're going to do the weather, the closing market report, and the obituaries. Then we're going to talk with Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau. That's all coming up right here at AM 1400 KVFD.
Ready to create your own income with your own home-based business where there's no such thing as getting laid off? If a billionaire entrepreneur spent 5 years and $20 million searching for the next big trend, wouldn't you want to know what he found? If you're serious about making money from home without having to leave home, then write this down. www.goherenext.com. You decide your income. Get the facts now. Goherenext.com.
Warning: if you're buried in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies make you think you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Answers at 800-970-5932. If you're struggling to pay off your debt, do not let the credit card companies make you think you have to. Call Credit Answers now for free information on how to get out of debt faster than you ever thought possible, without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We offer a guarantee with no upfront fees, so there's no risk. For free information, visit creditanswers.com or call 800-970-5932. That's 800-970-5932.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. An excessive heat watch begins at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon and continues until 7 p.m. Saturday night. Mainly cloudy skies this afternoon with a chance for scattered storms. High of 86, winds out of the southwest 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance for scattered storms again tonight. Lows level off around 70. Cloudy skies expected. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 80.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge, 236, 80 degrees, as Jennifer Wojcicki just said there. 24 minutes before 3 o'clock. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Scott Grote has passed away. Scott Grote of Fort Dodge has died at the age of 59. He passed away on Monday. There will be a gathering of family and friends, and that'll be held from 4 to 7 Friday for Scott Grote at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services. J.C. Carnelli of Fort Dodge has died at the age of 70. Memorials may be left to the family's discretion. That's for J.C. Carnelli. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. 2:37 at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 80 degrees outside. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 5 3/4 at 435 1/4. 3/4 at 441 1/4. March down 5 1/4 at 448 1/2. May down 4 1/2 at 452. August soybeans down 14 cents at 887 3/4. September down 14 at 3 3/4. November beans down 14 cents at 906. January down 13 1/2 at 918 3/4. September wheat down 1/4 penny at 507 1/2. Soybean meal down 3.20 a ton at 308.40. August live cattle down 27 cents at 108.22. October down 52 at 109 1/4. August feeders down 60 cents at 141.05. September down 72 at 141.87. August lean hogs down 105 at 79.05. October up 140 at 75.30. I am Dwayne Murley.
Stand for people, progress and pride.
We are the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we're making healthcare affordable for you. We provide our members with access to quality healthcare coverage, savings on prescription drugs, preventive care, and more. For more information, contact your local county farm bureau.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau, helping you.
Guys, waking up over and over to pee is not okay. You can reduce those nighttime bathroom trips with the ingredients in Super Beta Prostate P3 Advanced. You can try a full 30-day bottle free. Just pay shipping and handling. No strings attached, no obligations, and no commitments to buy. Call 1-800-394-5859. 1-800-394-5859. 1-800-394-5859.
I need results, so I choose the one system I trust to take weeds down and keep them down on even my toughest acres. With the Roundup Ready Extend crop system, I get the proven performance of Roundup Ready 2 Extend soybeans, combined with XtendiMax herbicide with Vapor Grip technology for control of more weeds than any other soybean system. Up to 14 days of soil activity on labeled weeds, and the kind of yield potential that helps keep me in the black, all to deliver my kind of results season after season. I choose the Roundup Ready Extend crop system. I choose results. See why the Roundup Ready Extend crop system continues to be the #1 soybean system planted by farmers when you visit RoundupReadyExtend.com. XtendiMax is a restricted use pesticide. Performance may vary. Always read and follow grain marketing and all other stewardship practices and pesticide label directions. Check local regulations for specific requirements in your state.
Michael Devine at AM 1400
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
with 60 rounds of freedom.
Yes, we have 60 rounds of freedom at all times. It's 2:40, 20 minutes before 3 o'clock. Let's take off. Steve Peterson of the Farm Bureau is here. We're going to talk to him in about 1 second.
Give more power to the people. There's some people up there holding everything.
Okay, we're talking to Steve in about 30 seconds. All right, I exaggerated just slightly there. Anyway, we welcome to the program again. Steve Peterson, farmer from our area. How you doing, Steve?
Good. How are you, Mike?
This portion of the program, of course, brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau, and Steve is a past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau and a past delegate. Are you a current delegate? Okay.
Current delegate.
Okay. All right. Okay. So you're you still got that going on.
Yep.
All right. You know, I've enjoyed some vacation time this summer, and I've driven all over the state now. I was up to Okoboji over the weekend and drove around in the northwest quadrant of the state, and it's pretty much the same story. I saw some corn that was easily 6 feet tall and some lush-looking soybean fields, and I saw some fields that didn't get planted.
Yep.
Then I saw some fields where there was a lot of corn that was 6 feet high, and then right next to it there was nothing but a big washed out area size of a football field. You know, it's all over the place.
There's a little bit of that. It seems like everywhere, and I know in the last week or so I've been to Des Moines a couple times, and same thing. You see a lot of good looking crops. You see a lot of marginal looking crops, and scattered in there's a few fields that didn't get planted. I have not personally been out to Indiana or Illinois, Ohio, but they say it's drastically different out there. And it's a big crapshoot right now on what we have there. And the USDA keeps feeding us reports and information. And I think a lot of people are a little skeptical of maybe some of the data that they're releasing to us, and maybe becoming a little less relevant in decision makings. And the markets, boy, they've been teeter-tottering back and forth here, depending on what report they're listening to or what weather model. Last night we had some scattered showers, I guess, go through this direct area. I got 6-7 tenths on my farm, which that was very welcome. It was about 3:30 in the morning, and I really wasn't expecting anything, and heard some lightning, and I was like, what in the world's that? So but you go south of me a few miles and it was greatly reduced in the amount. So like everything else, it's very scattered and inconsistent through the area.
Steve, are you saying that if we ask 5 experts for their opinion, we'll get 5 different answers on the same topic?
Definitely. Definitely.
We have to remember that, don't we?
Yeah, it's some of this realistically, a a few weeks ago, the USDA came out with a report, and then conveniently about 2 hours after the report, they said, well, don't listen to that information. We're going to resurvey. That, for a lot of people, lost a little bit of credibility. And now we're kind of waiting till early August for the revised numbers of how much they're estimated we planted and prevent plant and that kind of stuff. So, we really don't have a good handle on how big or little this crop is this year. So it's corn. There's, like I said, there's corn right now that's tasseling and silking, which it's kind of that's a real critical time.
What does that mean?
Well, it's going into its reproductive stages. So you have the tassel and the silk, which is the male and female parts of the plant, and it's actually right now is probably one of the most critical times in the corn plant cycle. It's actually using the most water. Corn right now will use anywhere from a quarter inch of water to a little over a third of an inch of water per day during the cycle. And then when it starts filling the grain after it pollinates, it uses quite, about that same amount of water every day. So, little drinks of water this time of year are a good thing. Probably one of the most dangerous things we have going for us here, at least in the next couple days, is these hot nighttime temperatures that they're forecasting for us. Generally, we like to see the nighttime temperatures fall below 70 degrees.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, what kind of happens with a corn plant is it basically doesn't rest. So it's.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. The old boys used to say we want 90 degrees plus during the day and 70 degrees, no less than 70 degrees at night.
Yep. If we could get in the mid 90s, sunshine, and that's great during the day, and then cool it off at night, give the plants a ability to rest, and throw some rains in there every so often. That's good corn growing weather. With today's technology, you'll probably start seeing some spray planes in the areas and what they'll be doing, and you'll see some sprayers that have some really tall legs on them. That's high clearance spraying, and what we're doing there is applying fungicides on the corn. And fungicides it's been kind of it's getting more widely adopted, I guess, in the area, but fungicides have a variety of different characteristics and things that they produce. And one of the things that we've learned over the past few years is that if properly applied in the right fungicide, it can help reduce basically the metabolism and the temperatures of the corn. So there's some side effects of their application that can aid us in times like this of extreme heat. So it's just kind of it's not ideal. Hopefully these temps don't get as bad as what they're predicting, but it also just looks like a real short window. But we're going to have corn that's going to be basically tasseling and silking, I bet, for the next month. Basically it's going to mirror just like the corn was put in. So like you said, you have some really short corn that looks great, but it would look great if it was the 1st of June. And, so it's going to be a ways off before it tassels and silks. So we're going to have a tremendously long interval this year of that part of production of corn. The other thing that's going to kind of throw a monkey wrench, we're constantly looking at bugs and insects that are out there, our pests. And there's a variety of, nothing's really gotten out of hand at this point. I just finally started seeing, which I thought was kind of odd, little grasshoppers. And in the last couple of years,
I haven't seen grasshoppers much.
Well, you'll just see if you went out in some fields right now, and especially like some grassy areas, you'll find some really, really little baby grasshoppers. So they are just starting to emerge. Grasshoppers in large numbers can be very damaging to crops, and there probably will be, I guess the best way to put it, there'll be a window of crops that is going to line up at the right time to probably be in some danger with bugs, because it's just going to be how the bugs are maturing and progressing and how the plants are maturing and progressing. It doesn't look like maybe some of the earlier planted corn, the big stuff you're seeing right now, might not have the it'll be pretty much done pollinating and through the window. It could be a kind of a something to watch on some of the later stuff, just how it lines up with the cycles of the insects and whatnot. So, but there's just a lot of different things we're looking at. Soybeans, again, you see every different kind. You see some that are pretty big. They've closed the rows in, all the way down to some that really just look like they're a few weeks old. And a lot of the chemicals, the burner chemicals that really, they kind of look deceiving. They look like they kill the whole field, but the beans actually grow out of it. Those are pretty much, I don't think people will be putting those on anymore. We're past the label on those type of herbicides, and that really has to do with the carryover into next year's crop. So once again, we're not even through this year's crop, and we're already thinking of next year's crop. So we have to look at the timeline and the recommended by the EPA on carryover and stuff like that. So we're going to be past the window right now for some particular types of herbicides and whatnot. So, and then we kind of will get into another game. Some of our especially our insecticides and our fungicides, as we apply those, we have what's called a pre-harvest interval, and we have to kind of watch how soon we would harvest from the time we apply those. So there's a lot of information that goes in, and again, that's relationships farmers will have with agronomists to make those decisions and to make the determination if an application of either a herbicide, a fungicide, or an insecticide is warranted by what we would call an economic threshold. And is it basically worth putting out there to do what we're doing? So a lot of decisions to be made. Again, there's you could talk to 5 different experts on what kind of crop. You could talk to 5 farmers, and you're going to get different.
Oh, tell me about it.
Attitudes.
How many times have I sat at a table in a coffee shop with a bunch of farmers, and they all have the answer?
Yeah, the best way I've heard in the last few days, I heard someone talking about it, and what we as a farmer, kind of our standard, our gold standard is we talk about our 10-year averages. That's what a lot of things are measured as, your 10-year average. And they put it as if a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, if 5 is your 10-year average, where do you feel you're at? And a lot of people, I think this year, at least in this area, there's quite a few farmers that probably say they would be a 6. They planted early, things went right. It looks like you got a pretty good crop out there. There's soybeans. People get a little more. You really don't know what beans are made in August, pretty much. If we go hot and dry in August, that can, rains in August can really add to soybeans. So it's a little too soon to tell on soybeans, but there's some optimism, I think, in corn crops, especially the ones that were planted, in the late April, early May timeframe. And, there does look to be some potential. Our heat units that we talk about a lot as farmers, we're kind of bouncing around. We're actually starting to catch up a little bit. These daytime temps that we've had and even these nighttime temps have kind of, last year is kind of you can't really compare against last year because last year was an extremely aggressive year on heat units. And if you look back a few years, we're getting a little closer to normal for some of the crop. Myself, I was spraying fungicides last year, basically on the 4th of July. This year, I started applying them about a week later. So I think we have closed the gap up a little bit. In the next few weeks, depending on what these temperatures do, we could actually maybe get close to what normal would be.
Maybe
whatever
we need to redefine that. I don't know.
Well, that's kind of a dilemma right now. What is normal weather? There's some chances.
Last 2 years were not it. I'm not
right.
I'm not going to accept that.
Right. So, and coming out, the hurricanes, sometimes those hurricanes coming in through the Gulf, they can affect our weather, stall out some systems and everything else. So it's just kind of, we'll see how those do. And they're predicting I've seen both ways. Again, it's which model they look at. Some are predicting normal rainfall, some are predicting maybe a little more than normal, and temps look to be normal to maybe slightly above for the next 60 days. So, but again, that can change overnight. It seems like they can sure change their minds, and it doesn't seem like they have anyone to answer for. So, but yeah, it's that rain last night on my farm, that was very welcome. Because like I said, the corn right now, it'll use a 1/4 inch to 1/3 of an inch of rain per day. And just it's.
You think it'll need that much?
That's generally what corn plants do. And you know,
we never get that.
Well, the soil holds a lot of water here.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to talk, we got 4 inches on one Sunday and nothing the whole week.
Sure. That's the beauty of here in Webster County and surrounding areas. We have very deep, black, rich soils.
Sure.
And we hold a lot of water.
Mhm.
You take the same corn plant you take out to Nebraska, where it's a little sandier and whatnot. That's why they have to irrigate, because they don't have the water holding capability that we do here. Corn in general needs 22 to 25 inches of rain in a growing season. Our soil in this area holds about 4 inches per foot, is what they generally say.
You get across the Missouri River, it seems like the west of the country starts.
Well, you even get south of Dallas County, and soils are definitely different than what they are right here. It's kind of we're in that glacial lobe in this direct area.
Where is that glacial? Is that glacial lobe go across Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio?
No, it's pretty much central Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a deposit of a different type of soil, and a corn root will go down about 4 foot. So technically in the bank, if we're charged with water, we have about 16 inches of water in the bank. So, that's why you don't see a lot of irrigation in this area.
Mm-hmm.
You get out of this area and you'll occasionally see it. And definitely you get out in Nebraska, you're going to see it, but they don't have the water holding capabilities that we do. So that's kind of why that happens the way it does. But, running irrigation is a tremendous expense for those people too. Those pumps just don't run by free. There's diesel engines and everything else that are powering those pumps, hours and hours a day. So that's a huge burden for cost of production on them. So and there's advantages to irrigation too. They can do their fertilizers and whatnot through the water, where we're doing a little differently here with pre-plant and feeding through the season. So, but yeah, it's hopefully we can have non-severe weather, and I think everyone, timely rains from this far out, I think we can all use. Because the other thing in the spring, when we were getting all those rains, we really didn't have a crop that was using a lot of water either. So it kind of can build up on us. So in a 4-day period, we can use basically an inch of rain. It's consumed, and it will drown the ground or dry the ground out just with the plants growing, and and it aids to the humidity too that we feel in the air. So it's kind of an interesting cycle that we go through, but it's a necessity, and it's just part of ag production, I guess, that we get used to.
Sure.
So.
Well, there have been so many advantages, or I should say not advantages, but progress made in the genetics of some of our corn.
Sure.
And, grain in general, that, what we can do now is amazing. I mean, in years past, the type of spring we had would have killed the crop, or the majority of it.
There's a lot of science in different genetics and how they respond to drier ground and drought tolerance varieties and a lot of that. I've been to meetings at Monsanto and DuPont and different things, and a lot of actually those genetics really aren't designed for us in the Midwest as much as they're designed for the fringe areas that grow crops, and looking forward into Africa and some other markets that water is a very valuable commodity. So if they can have a higher producing plant in those types of environments, that becomes a huge economic value to them. So sometimes what we think we get pretty nearsighted on the world, but a lot of that is actually being developed for other areas, and because like I said, irrigation is a huge expense. If you can cut down on the water consumption, put it an inch of rain is 27,000 gallons of water an acre. And an acre is a football field.
Whoa, say that again.
An inch of rain is equal to 27,000 gallons of water on a football field. That's
a football field.
A football field is the most
roughly an acre.
Is roughly the easiest measurement most people would understand is an acre. So if you put 27,000 gallons of water in there, that would equal an inch of rain. Corn, if they uses 22 inches of rain a year, you start doing the math, it uses a lot of water.
Yeah.
Well, if you have to physically pay to pump that water, it starts adding up, and you start doing thousands of acres. It's a huge expense. So if you can get a variety that's a little more efficient, that really gets the economics rolling.
You go out to California Central Valley. I'm sure you have.
Sure.
I've driven a truck through there a few times. They irrigate their fields.
The farms,
it's amazing.
When I was out on a Farm Bureau trip there, to listen to them, what they pay for water permits it was just made our jaws drop.
Sometimes the towns and cities in the Central Valley can't get enough water.
Right. And
we're going to have to come back. It's 3:00 in the afternoon.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400, KVFD. Fort Dodge.
A resolution of condemnation. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News.
These comments from the White House are disgraceful and disgusting, and these comments are racist.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi kicking off debate on a measure aimed at President Trump over his tweets about 4 progressive congresswomen.
How shameful to hear him continue to defend those offensive words that we have all heard him repeat, not only about our members, but about countless others.
President Trump again denies being a racist. Fox's John Decker is live at the White House.
At the top of a cabinet meeting, the president called past comments by the 4 progressive House lawmakers vile and disgusting and said the ball is now in their court.
It's up to them. They can do what they want. They can leave, they can stay, but they should love our country and they should work for the good of our country.
House Republican leaders, in response to a Democratic resolution condemning the president's tweets about the 4 freshman lawmakers, allege their outrage is all about politics. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, meanwhile, urged all sides to tone down the rhetoric. Lisa?
Thanks, John. A federal judge is ordering singer R. Kelly held in a Chicago jail without bond for now on sex-related charges, saying the singer had failed to convince the court he would not commit new crimes if released. Kelly was recently charged with federal counts of sex trafficking in New York. He was already facing sex crimes charges he has denied in Chicago. A mixed finish on Wall Street. The Dow down 25 points at the closing bell. The S&P and the Nasdaq have also been lower, though stocks did fluctuate during the session, but they all finished down, retreating from the recent record highs. The Dow finishing right around 27,334. This is Fox News.
When the sand gets hot, you gotta move fast, like a dog chasing a Frisbee. Move just as fast to the Ford Hurry Up and Save sales event. Because for the first time ever, you can get 20% estimated savings on select Ford vehicles. Plus, earn complimentary maintenance through Ford Pass Rewards. Don't let this hot deal on America's best-selling brand pass you by. Get into the Ford Hurry Up and Save sales event. Based on 2010 through 2018 calendar year sales. Modem must be activated within 60 days of purchase through the Ford Pass app on a smartphone and remain active for at least 6 months after activation. Eligible on select 2019 model year vehicles. Vehicle must have arrived at dealer at least 61 days prior to the sale date. Estimated savings include an average dealer discount based on a sales survey of average discounts offered by Ford dealers nationally. Discount may vary. Dealer determines price. For all offers, take new retail delivery from an authorized Ford dealer stock by 9/3/19. See participating dealer for complete details.
Federal prosecutors say no civil rights charges against New York City police involved in the arrest that led to a man's death 5 years ago.
Now, Eric Garner died when he resisted arrest as he was taken into custody for selling untaxed cigarettes. This incident was caught on video, including Garner struggling for air. During the confrontation, New York police officer Daniel Pantaleo used a chokehold That's a restraining technique that is banned by the New York City Police Department. Garner's mother wants police held accountable for her son's death.
You could push back, but we're pushing forward because this is not the end.
Authorities say the 7-second chokehold used by Officer Pantaleo didn't necessarily result in Garner's death.
Fox's David Lee Miller. The NYPD's internal investigation is not over. U.S. Attorney General William Barr made the final decision not to bring federal civil rights charges. Police in one Tennessee town are asking people not to flush illegal drugs down the toilet because of intoxicated wildlife.
The police department in Loretto, Tennessee, says a man was arrested for flushing meth and drug paraphernalia down the toilet, prompting them to ask residents not to dispose of narcotic drugs in such a manner as the wastewater in that town ends up in ponds and streams frequented by geese and ducks. And if the flushed crank makes it far enough downstream, it could result in meth gators, though no such intoxicated animal has actually been encountered. Evan Brown, Fox News.
Amazon Prime Day can apparently be good for other retailers too, offering competing sales. One analysis from a key data group says retailers that have annual revenue of at least $1 billion had a more than 60% increase in online sales compared with an average Monday on the first day of Amazon's Prime sales days yesterday. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones. The Iowa DCI has released more information on the 3 people found dead in a Bancroft home last week. Radio Iowa's Brian Wilson reports.
The investigation found that 22-year-old Mason Ulrich Cedarwall and 30-year-old Amy Lynn Manna, who lived in the residence, were shot to death. The third person found dead in the home was identified as 30-year-old Austin James Bernhard, also from Bancroft. Bernhard died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The investigation determined that Bernhard was Manna's ex-boyfriend and also discovered that he had been arrested on July 4th on charges of assault and burglary involving Cedarwall and Manna. Reporting from Algona, Brian Wilson for Radio Iowa.
31-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cornelius Gully has been charged with an alleged sexual assault that occurred in August of 2018. Gully is facing 1 count of second-degree sexual abuse, a Class B level felony. The allegations state that Gully threatened the woman's life if she did not listen to him. He has already been charged with first-degree burglary for breaking into the woman's home in the same incident. The trial for the burglary case is set for July the 23rd. In the matter of the alleged sexual abuse, Gully made his initial court appearance last week and was ordered to be held on a $25,000 cash-only bond. Gully's preliminary hearing for the sex abuse charge is set for this Friday. From Radio Iowa, after 7 years of litigation and a 6-week trial, a jury has decided former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad discriminated against a gay state official. The jury awarded former Workers' Compensation Commissioner Christopher Godfrey $1.5 million in damages. Roxanne Conlon is Godfrey's attorney.
It's important, indeed critical, that every single employee of the state of Iowa be treated fairly, that they be treated like a full human being. That did not happen to Chris Godfrey.
Conlon argued that Branstad did not have the authority to cut Godfrey's salary in an attempt to force him to resign.
It was about the way that the governor of the state of Iowa treated a very extraordinarily great workers' compensation commissioner, and the jury held the reason that he was treated like that is because he's gay. We all agree that's wrong.
Branstad is currently serving as a U.S. ambassador to China. He returned to Des Moines last month to testify in the case, telling the jury he's employed other gay employees and wanted Godfrey to resign because of complaints from the business community. A spokesman for Governor Kim Reynolds' office says they're disappointed in the verdict and are consulting with attorneys about an appeal. If the jury's decision stands, a judge is likely to order the state to pay Godfrey's legal bills. Taxpayers have already spent more than $1 million paying the private attorneys who defended Branstad's actions. A $1,300 grant was awarded to a local child care facility to complete projects. Kids Zone Christian Child Care and Preschool received the grant from an organization called Linking Families and Communities after they had initially applied in April. They put the grant to use in upgrades to the center in terms of science activities, improved inclusion and diversity, and new books, just to name a few. In sports, the Fort Dodge Dodger baseball team with a sweep of a doubleheader last night of Des Moines East, 6-3 in the first game behind a strong pitching performance by Anthony Wagner, making his first start of the season. The second game, the Dodgers exploded for a 5 spot in the first and were able to win 9-5. Mason Bakoven with 3 hits at the plate. Fort Dodge Dodgers softball in action tonight in the regional championship, taking on Ankeny, a 7 p.m. first pitch at Harlan Rogers. Dodger coach Andy Adams says the message to her team is clear.
The message is the same. Let's play our game. Let's do what we do. Let's stick to our game plan. Regardless of what team we play, we have to do what we do best. And that is play defense, score runs, have fun, and do what we do. You know what I mean? Throw in some great pitching, and you got a recipe for success.
Catch every pitch of the Dodgers regional championship game tonight at 7 p.m. on the Eagle 92.1. St. Edmunds baseball, they'll be in action tonight in the playoffs. The Gales will travel to Peterson to take on Sioux Central. That game, a 7 o'clock first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update for today, July the 16th. From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. An excessive heat watch begins at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon and continues until 7 p.m. Saturday night. Mainly cloudy skies this afternoon with a chance for scattered storms. High of 86, winds out of the southwest 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance for scattered storms again tonight. Lows level off around 70. Cloudy skies expected. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 81.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we support farm families. We're a voice on local, state, and national issues. We're also committed to making rural Iowa a better place to live and keeping Iowa farm families on the farm.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau, helping you.
Have the talk of the lifetime with the ones you love.
Grandma, this card asks, when did you get a TV and what was your favorite show?
I think around 1950, they had a Fort Dodge TV station that had a local barn dance show every Saturday night. Oh, honey, it was so much fun. They'd play instruments, we would sing and dance.
Sharing stories and memories with those who matter most isn't just important today, it will be especially significant when it's time to honor a life lived. Contact Gunderson Funeral Home to learn more about having the talk of a lifetime.
Need cash fast? WeFixMoney.com can help you get up to $2,500 with free same-day funding on business days. That's right. Submit your information at WeFixMoney.com in the morning and you could see the cash by 5 p.m. At WeFixMoney.com, we know that emergency cash needs can't wait. So our lenders work 24/7. Visit us now at WeFixMoney.com. That's WeFixMoney.com. See website for details. Terms and conditions may apply.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Making radio great again. We do it every day from 2 to 5 right here, Monday through Friday, I should say. At AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. It's not killer heat today. We had a little rain around the area, so it's good weather for farming anyway. Speaking of farming, this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau, and with us now is Farm Bureau member and delegate Steve Peterson. Did I say delicate or delegate?
Delegate.
Delegate. Okay, I shouldn't say delicate. Shouldn't say delegate. We're macho in here. We're not delicate. That's right. We're manly men doing things in a manly way. Anyway, so Steve, we were talking about crop conditions and that sort of thing. I wanted to ask you about some of the fields I saw that were they couldn't be planted.
Sure.
Again, some of the fields, as you go down the road, I mean, some of the fields look perfect. I mean, the corn is 6 feet high, and the next field is soybeans, and that's great. Then you'll find a couple of fields, there's nothing there.
Correct.
I mean, there's nothing there.
Yep.
So obviously they didn't get planted for whatever reason. The weather, of course, is the real reason. But they didn't get planted. So what happens? Does the farmer just lose the money? Does the crop insurance come in, or what?
Well, assuming the farmer has elected to take federal crop insurance, then there's a provision in that. And basically, I'll summarize this fairly quick. In March, we basically sit down with our crop insurance agents and we designate what we plan our intentions of planting for this year are. Corn, soybeans, acres and whatnot. There's a calculation. It's within the month of March, it's the December futures on the Chicago board. They average that month, and they come up with an average price of the December futures. That number is then calculated along with the individual farmer's 10-year average, or if say a farmer is a new farmer and doesn't have an average, he then gets to use the county averages, or what we call the plug yields. And those would go in there, and then as you farm, you build up your average or decline your average, I guess, whichever way goes. But the individual farmer's 10-year average, that's kind of the magic number that we all pay attention to. Basically, in a nutshell, after we declare that, and then we and this is a little rare for Iowa to have it, even this much activity in using this. If you declared then to take a prevent plant status on corn, you would get 55% of your guarantee on those acres.
Right.
The reason you don't get 100% of what you're guaranteed is because you probably don't have the input cost of the seed. Some of your fertilizer might not be out. Of course, the diesel fuel and the tractors and the expenses and this. So it's a reduction, and it was a 60% on soybeans. Little kind of some, I'm not 100% familiar on it. I believe some of the areas in the flood zones, like along the rivers, they did make some arrangements, and some of those counties, I believe, got a little higher percentages, but that had to do with the flood mitigation and the federal disaster proclamations on those areas.
Right.
But there is some mechanism in there. Now, it definitely isn't going to make a farmer whole by any means, but
keep it from killing him.
It shouldn't be a huge. It still be burdensome, but it's really designed to keep you in the game, and so those decisions are made on a case by case, and they still have to basically qualify. And that was the thing that I've heard of a few down in my area that I don't believe were covered because the neighbors all got planted. So they will have adjusters go out and inspectors and look at these fields. If a lot of fields in the areas didn't get planted, they might have a hard time proving that it was a hardship and not just their problem.
Right.
Now there was some adjustments made and some concessions made this year about planting cover crops on some of these fields, and those can be flown on with an airplane or seeded later on. And some of those crops can also now be harvested by a certain date and fed to animals too. So, some of those growers might have been using the silage or for animal feed. So they've kind of been adjusting some of the rules, I guess, in those cases. But there's roundabout way. There is some there's a path to having some financial security on those acres. But it's, again, that's something you laid out in March, and I don't know anyone that was sitting in March that was thinking this was the path we were going to be on.
Well, it was another weird year after the last one. We were all hoping it would be better. We were thinking after last year, how could it be worse? Really?
Well, and sitting in a lot of meetings, whether it was with a lot of local banks will have economists come in, and they're always trying to get you to think about making sales, making profits, and various reasons. But the mentality in March was there was probably a clear cut path to having a 2 in front of corn than a 5. And now I think most people got the opinion that we're going to see $5 corn at some point. So the mindset that farmers took from March to now is, unconceivable, really. So, but these decisions on crop insurance and the prevent plant, they are long made before we get into a growing season. So it's not like you can at the last minute, buy up a bunch of insurance and make some, concessions that way. So it's, but yeah, it's in the idea of the crop insurance is it's basically to ensure that we have a stable production system in the United States for our grains and whatnot. So it's been a pretty good system over the years. It's able to adjust for individual growers, individual regions. It's basically been around only in, I think in 2007, it kind of got its introduction to pretty much the format we're in now. And they've tweaked it along the way.
Sure.
So, in terms, it's a relatively new program. It's something my dad and my grandpa really didn't have a lot of experience with. There was other programs based on yield and different things back in the day, but these revenue policies is what they call them now. They're actually a pretty workable, and a lot of people understand. They're not overly complicated. They might sound it on the face, but when you get into the kind of how they work, they're pretty simple for farmers to use.
Your dad and your grandfather lived in a whole different world. Boy,
They did.
The world has changed so much in 20 years.
Sure, they did.
I think Bill Horn set out at we had a conference 5-6 years ago on water quality out to Iowa Central. I was a moderator, and he said the world changed in 1996 with GPS. I think I mentioned that to you on the air before. And he's absolutely right. Once we had GPS and farmers could start understanding how much fertilizer, how much grain, or excuse me, seed, and what kind of fertilizer and seed needed to go in each little plot of land. I mean, the world was entirely different.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's still different.
I'm I'm a little below average of size of farm in Webster County, but I have technology. I have satellite overflies of my dirt every few days, and I get images on plant health and vegetation densities, and it allows you to make very educated decisions on where you want to go scout. Why is there a problem, or why are we seeing what we are?
Right.
So the technology is. I read an article. The first drone got licensed in Iowa to spray chemicals.
Really?
Just happened here, I think this week. The Department of Land Stewardship gave a permit. Company, I think out of Cedar Rapids, it's kind of a new thing, but they're going to use drones to start applying.
Boy, that'd save a little diesel fuel, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't know that it's. I think it's pretty new, and it's drones for farmers. I think a lot of times are thinking toys, or more of the smaller scale.
That's the way they started out. Yeah,
it's exactly where it started. Now if you have ever been by or to an Air Force base in recent years, there's that drone that got shot down by Iran here not that long ago. It was the size of a 737. So I mean, there's drones out there that are they're big, and so the advances we could see shortly in drone technologies and stuff like that. Was it last year at the Farm Expo in Boone? The driverless tractor. That's something that's been toyed around. Cars that drive themselves are out there. I don't know that they're widespread yet, but there's going to be technologies that enter agriculture. GPS is there's a lot of farmers that don't have it. There's a lot that do, and there's some that fully embrace technology, some that dabble in it, and some that barely use any of it. But
it's coming. It's coming.
It is.
There's semis on the freeways out in California now that are driverless.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite the situation.
Yeah.
Well, the driverless cars had a setback last year. A sensor or something didn't pick up a pedestrian and killed a pedestrian.
Sure. And I think there's a whole side story to the driverless stuff that has to do with 5G internet technology, and you if you're streaming information, you can't be dropping a phone call. So
you really can't.
We have to, as a society, basically up our technology game to bring in some of that stuff.
Now, I want to say about those driverless trucks in California, that's true, but there is a driver in the truck.
Sure.
I mean, you got an 80,000 pound truck out there. You
Yeah.
don't want to. You don't want to just.
I think
if something fails, you want a manual override.
Sure. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot of technology and stuff that we haven't even thought of yet, and it's just pretty amazing to see what they come up with, and
farmers my dad's age wouldn't have believed that tractors had air conditioners.
Last week
wouldn't have.
last week at the Webster County Fair, I didn't have a chance to go in the building, but I did see some kids leaving with robots.
I'm glad you brought that up. The Webster County Fair. How'd the Farm Bureau do out there? Was that a great thing?
It was. We had great weather again. It got a little warm on us on the end Saturday night, but when the sun sets, it gets there. But all of our events, we had good turnouts. The sweet corn feed was a success again, and got a shout out to the Webster County pork producers, the Webster County beef producers for doing burgers and patties, and New Co-op. They have the tough job. They cook the corn,
right?
And they were hot. They looked like it. So they're over there doing a steam bath. They did a great job. Baumgars, they supply us with the cattle tanks to put the ice and the drinks in, and then we had great help. Representative Ann Meyer was there with her husband, Dr. Jim Meyer.
Aren't they great? Jim and Ann Meyer, they're just the greatest.
They were there serving corn and burgers and had a great time with them. And then we also had some help from the Webster County Fair Queen, Samantha Alps. I seen her, I think, in every station throughout the deal. She did everything. I think she took donations, and I know she served corn and chips, and she was just everywhere. So great
person. They
Yeah.
both are, and I'll tell you, they're at a point in their lives where they could go sit and do nothing if they wanted to.
Sure.
They have chosen to be part of our community, just full force too.
Yeah. So it was great seeing them and having them help, and all the 100% of the proceeds we're gonna be going out to the food banks here in Webster County, and I don't have a exact number, but I believe we raised a little north of $4,000. So
excellent.
So it was a good day. It was a great night, and the helicopter, that was something new there. That never stopped. It just kept going up,
Kept
and
going,
down,
did it?
up and down and up and down, and sure seemed like a pretty a lot of people, and but it was beautiful weather out there. A lot of different events this year. It's always been a really good fair, and they've just kept adding to it and making some changes. But I seen some kids come out of there, and they have robotics out there too. So again, that's just some of our future, I think, in the young kids there. It's not just limited to the animals and whatnot. So a lot of neat stuff. And, a lot of the county fairs in this area were going on last week. I know Calhoun County's was also, and I believe Greene County's. So it's kind of unique to have them all in the same weekend. But before you know it, the state fair is going to be here. And it's going to be an interesting, year and weather, and hopefully that'll work out for the state fair. But we've always seemed to luck out on the Webster County Fair for weather. But it does definitely get hot there at the end of the night. We didn't have much of a breeze, so it was a very good time, and appreciate the help and the support from everyone that helps us put that on.
Yeah. Are we ever going to get a midway out there? I've always been advocating for a midway out there. I know the Farm Bureau doesn't run the fair necessarily, but
it really looks to me like they kind of have that going on more so than not.
How so?
Well, they've been rearranging some of the vendors, and they had a lot more food vendors, a lot more selection of food from what I could see, and it's just they had entertainment, and I've seen several people, and they really complimented on the fair, and it's you get some new blood and some new ideas, and some new energy sometimes, and these things really they kind of take a life of their own on. So it's pretty interesting to see it change and evolve, but it's to me it's a really good run true county fair, and the involvement of the kids and the animals is incredible. So the amount of work they put into.
How many days were you out there?
Just out there one, and then I stopped in another day. So,
okay.
So but yeah, a lot of people I know in this part they like the Clay County Fair. I just seen an ad for the Clay County Fair. They really go all out up in that neck of the woods.
They do. I was kind of up in that area this past weekend, and a long time ago, I used to work for KICD Radio in Spencer. It's a good community, and it's a great county fair. I mean, it's the world's greatest county fair, as they say.
The last 8 days.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And some people will tell you it's much better than the state fair. I understand what they're saying. I hate to compare them. I'm still my personal preference is state fair.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people, especially the Northwest here, like to go to the Clay County Fair.
Sure.
And if I can find a little time, I might even try it this year. I still hope to go down to the state fair, have some people. Farm Bureau was one of the people that sponsored me for a day down there last year. And I hope we can get that done again this year. But I may even try to get one of the big machinery or people or somebody to sponsor me up to Clay County Fair.
Mm-hmm.
It would be worth it.
Yeah.
People are more tuned into the state fair here in this part of the country, I think.
Yeah, they are. But you start getting up in that Northwood, they're quite a ways.
There's a lot of money up in that fair, I'll tell you.
Well, Des Moines starts getting, a little further away. And it's when I was in China, we were out in the Chengdu region, clear in the western side, totally different area than Beijing.
Right.
And they said the mountains are high and the emperor is far. And it's a totally different mentality out in western China. So
this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. Steve Peterson's been our guest. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
Okay, it's exactly 2:30. We're looking for Pastor Austin Hill. We're looking for David Ferrix a little bit later on. And we're looking for better days, blue skies, loving our fellow man, all that sort of stuff. Right here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, baby.
Give more power to the people. There's some people up there holding everything. Telling lies, giving out of bands about the people's money and things. And if they're gonna throw it away, might as well be some to me. Yeah, they've seen it hurt up, but never had misery. There are some people who are starving to death. Never knew, but only heard of, and they never had happiness.
Oh, if you don't have enough to eat,
how can you think of love? You don't have time to care. So it's crime you're guilty of. Oh, yeah. God sake, give more power to the people. For God's sake, give more power to the people. Oh, cut this time to see who's got the power to kill the most. When they run,
you can dance, having the time of your life. What? Oh, okay. It's a commercial for an ABBA tribute, not an actual ABBA tribute. Gotcha. Don't miss ABBA Revisited, the #1 ABBA tribute in the world. Friday, August 23rd at Wild Rose Casino and Resort Jefferson. Tickets available now at the Iowa Store and online at wildroseresorts.com.
Mark Patrick Hypnosis is coming to Fort Dodge on August 14th for one day only. Lose weight or stop smoking now through hypnosis. Join the over 500,000 people who have stopped smoking and lost weight the Mark Patrick way. That's right. Join America's best-known hypnotist, Mark Patrick. This incredible weight loss hypnosis seminar is Wednesday, August 14th from 5:30 till 7:30 p.m. The Stop Smoking Hypnosis Seminar is from 8 till 10 p.m. Both are at the Quality Inn and Suites. Registration starts 30 minutes prior to the sessions. Seating is limited, so get there early to reserve your spot. For only $49.99, attend these life-changing programs and learn how the power of hypnosis can help you achieve your goal to lose weight or stop smoking without any willpower. 100% guaranteed. So whether you need to lose weight or want to stop smoking, join Mark Patrick Hypnosis Wednesday, August 14th at the Quality Inn and Suites on Highway 169, Fort Dodge. Doors open 30 minutes prior to seminars. seminars. For more information, go to markpatrickseminars.com.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon. From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones. The Iowa DCI has released more information on the 3 people found dead in a Bancroft home last week. Radio Iowa's Brian Wilson reports.
The investigation found that 22-year-old Mason Ulrich Cedarwall and 30-year-old Amy Lynn Manna, who lived in the residence, were shot to death. The third person found dead in the home was identified as 30-year-old Austin James Bernhard, also from Bancroft. Bernhard died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The investigation determined that Bernhard was Manna's ex-boyfriend and also discovered that he had been arrested on July 4th on charges of assault and burglary involving Cedarwall and Manna. Reporting from Algona, Brian Wilson for Radio Iowa.
31-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cornelius Gully has been charged with an alleged sexual assault that occurred in August of 2018. Gully is facing 1 count of second-degree sexual abuse, a Class B level felony. The allegations state that Gully threatened the woman's life if she did not listen to him. He has already been charged with first-degree burglary for breaking into the woman's home in the same incident. The trial for the burglary case is set for July the 23rd. In the matter of the alleged sexual abuse, Gully made his initial court appearance last week and was ordered to be held on a $25,000 cash-only bond. Gully's preliminary hearing for the sex abuse charge is set for this Friday. From Radio Iowa, after 7 years of litigation and a 6-week trial, a jury has decided former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad discriminated against a gay state official. The jury awarded former Workers' Compensation Commissioner Christopher Godfrey $1.5 million in damages. Roxanne Conlon is Godfrey's attorney.
It's important, indeed critical, that every single employee of the state of Iowa be treated fairly, that they be treated like a full human being. That did not happen to Chris Godfrey.
Conlon argued that Branstad did not have the authority to cut Godfrey's salary in an attempt to force him to resign.
It was about the way that the governor of the state of Iowa treated a very extraordinarily great workers' compensation commissioner, and the jury held the reason that he was treated like that is because he's gay. We all agree that's wrong.
Branstad is currently serving as a U.S. ambassador to China. He returned to Des Moines last month to testify in the case, telling the jury he's employed other gay employees and wanted Godfrey to resign because of complaints from the business community. A spokesman for Governor Kim Reynolds' office says they're disappointed in the verdict and are consulting with attorneys about an appeal. If the jury's decision stands, a judge is likely to order the state to pay Godfrey's legal bills. Taxpayers have already spent more than $1 million paying the private attorneys who defended Branstad's actions. A $1,300 grant was awarded to a local child care facility to complete projects. Kids Zone Christian Child Care and Preschool received the grant from an organization called Linking Families and Communities after they had initially applied in April. They put the grant to use in upgrades to the center in terms of science activities, improved inclusion and diversity, and new books, just to name a few. In sports, the Fort Dodge Dodger baseball team with a sweep of a doubleheader last night of Des Moines East, 6-3 in the first game behind a strong pitching performance by Anthony Wagner, making his first start of the season. The second game, the Dodgers exploded for a 5 spot in the first and were able to win 9-5. Mason Bakoven with 3 hits at the plate. Fort Dodge Dodgers softball in action tonight in the regional championship, taking on Ankeny, a 7 p.m. first pitch at Harlan Rogers. Dodger coach Andy Adams says the message to her team is clear.
The message is the same. Let's play our game. Let's do what we do. Let's stick to our game plan. Regardless of what team we play, we have to do what we do best. And that is play defense, score runs, have fun, and do what we do. You know what I mean? Throw in some great pitching, and you got a recipe for success.
Catch every pitch of the Dodgers regional championship game tonight at 7 p.m. on the Eagle 92.1. St. Edmunds baseball, they'll be in action tonight in the playoffs. The Gales will travel to Peterson to take on Sioux Central. That game, a 7 o'clock first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update for today, July the 16th. From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. An excessive heat watch begins at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon and continues until 7 p.m. Saturday night. Mainly cloudy skies this afternoon with a chance for scattered storms. High of 86, winds out of the southwest 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance for scattered storms again tonight. Lows level off around 70. Cloudy skies expected. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 81.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. September corn down 5 3/4 at 435 1/4. December down 5 3/4 at 441 1/4. March down 5 1/4 at 448 1/2. May down 4 1/2 at 452. August soybeans down 14 cents at 887 3/4. September down 14 at 893 3/4. November beans down 14 cents at 906. January down 13 1/2 at 918 3/4. September wheat down a quarter penny at 507 1/2. Soybean meal down 3.20 a ton at 308.40. August live cattle down 27 cents at 108.22. October down 52 at 109 1/4. August feeders down 60 cents at 141.05. September down 72 at 141.87. August lean hogs down 105 at 79.05. October up 140 at 75.30. I am Dwayne Murley.
Eggs are typically thought of as a breakfast food, but their low cost and nutrition makes them appropriate for any meal of the day. Hi, I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. At 17 cents a serving, eggs are the least expensive source of high-quality protein. Eggs are also an easy way to rack up protein in any dish, with one large egg containing 6 grams of protein and 9 essential amino acids, all for 70 calories. The American Egg Board started a new campaign to highlight some ways eggs can be added to dinner. Sophia Therios with the American Egg Board says dinner eggs are a humorous approach to getting people to consider making eggs a staple at dinner time as well as breakfast.
The egg can actually be a solution for the most challenging problem that consumers have, which is what's for dinner tonight. So they have a wonderful ingredient right in their homes that is delicious and nutritious and really versatile, can work with everything. And so we wanted to make them think of eggs for dinner in a really fun way.
Some of the recipes include Ninja's egg and mushroom pizza by the slice, Krabby Abby's egg and cheese meltdown.
Beginning with the kind of recipes that people are having for dinner and those weekly staples, and showing how eggs can be incorporated.
For egg recipes or more information, visit dinnereggs.com or incredibleegg.org. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Here's that song again. Here's that song again. For the 100th time today. Here's that song again. It's gonna be stuck in your head all day. Here's that song again. It will make you cray cray.
You love your kids enough to watch that TV show a bajillion times. Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat for their age and size. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. When you're planning the memorialization of your loved one, you're telling their story and sharing special memories with your family and friends. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, we're proud to help you celebrate the life of your loved one, and we're here to guide you with your selections as we help you and your family say goodbye in a way that's right for you. Our staff is committed to compassionate care and attention to detail. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Have you ever wondered how the brain works? What makes us tick? Join me, Greg Woods, every Wednesday morning for all the latest news on the brain, on aging, and the science behind it all. It's The Mind Boggles, every Wednesday morning at 8:30 on AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Well, you probably heard my friend Greg Woods there ask rhetorically how the brain works. I have no idea if mine is still working. I wonder if it ever did. I'm feeling philosophical today. I wonder in the larger scheme of things, in the endless cosmos, if my brain ever really worked, or if I burned it out years ago. Specifically on this date in 1969, when the first men landed on the moon, I had a rip-roaring hangover. Reverend Hill, do I need to confess? Bless me, Reverend, for
Well,
I have
hopefully-
sinned, or is this a wrong church, or what?
Hopefully you confessed that one a longer time ago. If that was
Oh,
50 years ago.
Hell no, I didn't. I had too much fun the night before. I just don't remember it. Just our guest, by the way, is Pastor Austin Hill of the First Presbyterian Church, and our discussions are always around being Christians in a non-Christian world. As a matter of fact, a world that is really hostile to the idea of Christian thought. It's sexist, after all, bigoted,
misogynistic,
misogynistic, and we don't want gays to get married. And I mean, actually, we have rules, and that's a terrible thing, because especially the Democrats, well, and the Republicans too, they just can't conceive of a world where there's no rules to break, because they want to break them all and then declare themselves revolutionary or admirable somehow. Yes, let's break all the rules. I don't know. I'm kind of babbling over here. I'm sorry. I thought I really thought I had a stream of consciousness thing going, and it just went really
It just
nowhere.
didn't quite work.
Didn't quite go well. But it is true that 50 years ago, men landed on the moon. Now, you weren't here, of course.
No, I was not.
You weren't around to take part in my debauchery. So your dad was what, 16 years old, did you say?
Yeah,
Almost?
I saw earlier he just put a post on Facebook, and I think it was 50 years ago that the Apollo 11, the Saturn V rocket launched. I think it was a few days later. I think it was July 20th that they actually landed on the moon. But yeah, my dad was down there in Florida to watch the launch of Apollo 11, and then as just about everyone in the world was, a few days later, watched the actual landing on the TV. And it is pretty incredible to think about that it's been 50 years since we landed on the moon.
Yeah.
And how much just our understanding of the world, our understanding of our galaxy, our understanding really of the universe has kind of changed in those 50 years as we have left our planet for the first time.
I remember asking an old sailor. I wasn't in the Navy, but I ran into an old sailor. He was in his late 70s, and he had joined the Navy in 1912.
Wow. That's the year the Titanic sank.
Yeah, really. He was, when I say old sailor, he was an old sailor. And I asked him, as a very young man, I was probably 19, 20 years old. I asked him about the biggest change he had seen in his life. And he said, landing on the moon, without a doubt. All the changes and all the turmoils and conflicts of his long life, because he was born in the 19th century.
Yeah.
And he, without equivocation, without thinking twice, he said the most amazing thing was seeing men land on the moon. That was just something out of a comic book or science fiction.
Yeah.
And remember, they didn't have really radio when he went in the Navy, or not even radio, for God's sake. But he just was amazed by that.
I mean, to think about what had happened in his lifetime then. I mean, we went from literally having no one able to fly and powered flight being invented in his lifetime to going to the moon.
Oh, yeah.
In one person's life.
In one
that
person's
one span.
life. Yeah. I mean, dirt roads everywhere. People traveled by horse, or they walked.
Yeah.
If you wanted to walk, if you wanted to go someplace 50 miles away, that was a week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, completely. And then I think, so they made it to the moon with computers that were literally thousands of times less powerful than the cell phones that we all have in our pockets today. Just recently, I actually was watching Apollo 13. I hadn't seen it in a long time. I watched it with my son, and I am still just fascinated by the ingenuity that not only the astronauts had to demonstrate in order to come home, but everyone in Houston working, hour after hour to bring them home. And the fact that those 3 men on their way toward the moon were able to then go to the moon, orbit around it, come back and land with the limited capabilities that they had. It is staggering.
You might add American ingenuity to that. People in the United States have been taught to think freely.
Mm-hmm.
To if A doesn't work, go to B. If B doesn't work, go to C. And if C doesn't work, you better figure it out.
Yeah, you better find a D.
Yeah, that's right. You better find it on your own. And then, and that's a very American thing. I don't know too many other countries where 3 astronauts would have come back like that because they are so programmed to take orders.
Yeah. And just, I mean, all of the contingencies that they had worked for on the ground, even leading up to it. It is just truly a fascinating thing. And, I fly small airplanes and it's crazy.
You have a pilot's license?
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
really?
and I was flying just the other day in one of the gauges, we've got an amperage meter that shows how many amps of current that the battery or the generator is putting out rather. And, when we have everything turned on, like the electric fuel pump, the landing light, all that, it's at like 70 amps. Well, in order to re-enter the atmosphere, Apollo 13, the crew had no more, I think, than 20 amps that they had to work with to go through all of their systems and all their checks and everything. And actually, it was the guy who was supposed to go up with them on that mission, but they thought was going to have the measles. And so he was on the ground and he was going through all of these procedures, trying to figure out what systems they could eliminate so that they could land by using no more than 20 amps. And my small airplane that I fly, just here on Earth, draws like 70 amps on takeoff. And these people came back from the moon with 20 amps. It's just unbelievable. And in stories like that from that whole mission, I'm convinced that the Apollo missions are the pinnacle of American ingenuity, of science, and really some of the crowning achievements of mankind, of humanity. And it's already been 50 years since then. So I do think that has had a profound impact on the way we think about the world, on the way we as Christians even think about things. And we're still, I think, reeling from that. Christians and just people in general in society, the amount of change that has happened in the last 100 years is staggering. And it's impacting, the way we view the church. It's impacting how we view authority. That's where I
was getting to. Even the movie you just described, the 3 astronauts thinking of this, thinking of A, B, C, they never thought to pray. Maybe they did. Maybe they did in real life, but even in the 90s when that movie was made, I suppose they thought that was passé or something. But there were. If man can go to the moon like that's an amazing thing. What's out there? Where is heaven? Where is this place where there is no torment?
Where do we go in death?
Right.
And that becomes a lot more mysterious. I think in some strange way, we as Christians in the 21st century have to become a little bit more comfortable with mystery, because science keeps answering so many of the questions that we used to kind of leave up to God. And the work of the scientist is to always answer as many of those questions as they can and to ask more questions. But there used to be a time where all of those non-answers, we just say, oh, well, only God knows that. Or, that's why we worship.
We were content with that.
Yeah.
We're no longer content.
Exactly.
And that's probably a good thing.
We know what's in the heavens and how the heavens work. So I think because of that, though, we really have to be okay with maybe even sounding foolish, believing some of the things that we do. I mean, knowing about genetics and DNA and biology, and yet to be a people who still profess that Jesus rose from the dead, that a body that's made up of all these millions of cells, it was dead. And somehow 3 days later, it rose again. For the modern thinking mind, I mean, that's absurd, right? I mean, there's no way to scientifically prove any of that, which of course we know that. But I think still in the 21st century, to be a Christian and really believe the doctrine of the church probably now requires more faith than it has in any previous generation.
I would think so. For one thing, our government is hostile to the idea of faith. And I've never heard Christian moral belief described with such hatred. And that's what I'm hearing. I mean, real vulgarity and hatred. The Christian belief is supposedly responsible for the torture, psychological torture of homosexuals. It is responsible for the terrible oppression of women, racism, slavery, all of these things. It's no longer salvation. It is a terrible place where all these things originated and continue to be promulgated. I mean, I don't see you that way. I don't see you saying, oh, here's Austin Hill, and he's here to sanction racism and sanction slavery, and he has his wife on a leash and all sorts of terrible things. I don't see you that way.
Well, and I think the hard part is there definitely were Christians who were doing those things, but that also was
Christians do all kinds of terrible things.
That's the thing. It was a day and age where almost everybody in our culture was Christian, and therefore, of course, the bad things that were happening and being done were also being done by Christians. So that doesn't excuse it. And I think there is room for Christians to apologize for those things that have been done, but I also don't think that dismisses the Christian faith. To your point that you have people in every community, every faith group that do horrible, reprehensible things, and that doesn't mean that alone is not the basis by which we judge the merits of a people group.
And I don't want to get bogged down on that, frankly, Reverend, but I'll tell you, our answer to these charges, and they're serious charges, our answer has been weak. Our answer to this has been weak. We've prayed for forgiveness a lot of times for excesses, blah, blah, blah. We haven't said that, no, this is how we feel about women. No, this is how we feel about gay people. Yes, we do have, we do stand by the 10 commandments. That means you can't go over and have sex with your neighbor's wife anytime you feel like it and say, well, get lost, Christians.
Yeah. Well, the hard part is there's a lack of unanimity within the church. Just take.
Certainly, we believe in the 10 commandments, or do we?
Yeah. I think we can start there. But
and to this day, I haven't coveted my neighbor's manservant.
Yeah.
That's in the long form commandments.
Yeah. That's the 10th one is coveting. But I think, take the women's issue. The church is still by no stretch monolithic on that idea at all, and on whether women should be in leadership, whether women should be in leadership in any capacity or just an ordained way. There's a huge range. So it's hard when we say Christianity in general, because it just depends on who you talk to on that. So I think there have been certain groups within Christianity who've been very clear on either side of take that issue, for example, and have been very outspoken. But I think as a whole, then culture says, well, which one of you all do we listen to? Is it the Presbyterians who have said women can be ordained and have been saying it for 70 years, or is it the evangelical non-denominational churches that maybe still don't believe that women should be ordained?
And certainly the Catholic Church.
Yeah, or the Catholic Church. So I think that's maybe us as Christians. We haven't done a good job of figuring these things out together. We just kind of go our separate ways when we can't sort it out.
Well, because there's denominations. The old Catholic Church said you were Catholic. If you weren't Catholic, you went to hell. I don't care if you accepted Jesus Christ as your personal savior or not. If you weren't Catholic, you went to hell. They've kind of lightened up on that. They've moderated their tone just a little bit, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, Father Patrick Boehm has talked about that, I know, on this show before.
Yeah, yes, he has. But that's the church I grew up in. Of course, I'm an older man.
But again, another set of seismic changes that have happened in the last 60, 70 years.
But we shouldn't concentrate on the difference in denominations. We should answer on behalf of our own denomination, in our own belief. I believe in the Christian faith and its tenets because.
Yeah.
How would you? And we're going to answer that question when we come back.
Sounds good.
There's a tease for you. This is AM 1400 KVFT.
Non-attorney spokesperson. Ad sponsored by OpenJar Concepts. Attention veterans and active duty military. If you were issued earplugs between 2002 and 2016 and were diagnosed with hearing loss or ringing in the ears, you may be entitled to compensation. The manufacturer of these military earplugs recently paid $9.1 million to resolve claims that their earplugs were defective, potentially exposing service members to damaging sound levels that could have resulted in hearing loss or tinnitus. If you or a loved one were issued earplugs and were diagnosed with tinnitus or hearing loss, don't wait. You fought for this country, and our attorneys want to fight for you. Call 800-548-7132 now for a free legal consultation and to see if you may be eligible to file a claim. Time restrictions may apply, and you pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. So call 800-548-7132 now. Again, 800-548-7132. That's 800-548-7132. 7132.
You make a million tough business decisions every day. So here's the easiest one of the year. Dell's Cyber Monday in July is back and bigger than ever. Get no-brainer deals on the very latest computers with Intel Core processors and a huge selection of servers, electronics, and more, all with free shipping on everything. To make your decision even easier, Dell's small business technology advisors can help you find just the right tech. Call 877-BUY-DELL. That's an easy call to make at 877-BUY-DELL or visit Dell.com/smallbusiness.
Yeah, this is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice for Dodge. Our guest, Pastor Austin Hill, the First Presbyterian Church. Think of that question. Maybe you can join us in the next half hour, 515-955-1400. I believe in the tenets of the Christian faith because it's 4 o'clock.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
A debate over the debate from Lisa Brady, Fox News. The move by House Democrats to target the president over recent comments about several progressive members gets hung up on language being used in the House. Fox's Jared Halpern is live on Capitol Hill.
A debate about a resolution condemning remarks and tweets President Trump made about 4 Democratic congresswomen stalled after Republicans demanded House Speaker Nancy Pelosi take back this statement.
Every single member of this institution, Democratic and Republican, should join us in condemning the president's racist tweets.
House Republicans say that violates House decorum that prohibits disparaging and accusatory comments about a president. Top House Republicans say they will oppose the resolution contending the president's words are not racist. Lisa.
Meantime, Jared, House Majority Whip Steny Hoyer announcing moments ago that the Pelosi comment in question is out of order and it's being stricken from the record. President Trump defending his remarks again today and criticizing what some of the lawmakers have said in the past.
What they did and the way they're treating Israel is a disgrace. But not only Israel, it's what they say about our country. It's my opinion they hate our country. And that's not good.
Also insisting again that he is not a racist. Tech giants back on the Capitol Hill Grill insisting at a House hearing on antitrust concerns they do have competitors. Facebook was asked about so-called killer acquisitions.
It's the idea that they are purchasing apps and startups just to shut them down, to snuff out the competition. Facebook says that anytime they did purchase a startup or acquire an app and then months later shut it down was because some acquisitions don't work out and they discontinued those products because of sound, legitimate business judgment.
Fox Business Network's Hillary Vaughn. New York becomes the 16th state to raise the smoking age from 18 to 21. The law signed today includes e-cigs. This is Fox News.
When the sand gets hot, you gotta move fast, like a dog chasing a Frisbee. Move just as fast to the Ford Hurry Up and Save sales event. Because for the first time ever, you can get 20% estimated savings on select Ford vehicles. Plus, earn complimentary maintenance through Ford Pass Rewards. Don't let this hot deal on America's best-selling brand pass you by. Get into the Ford Hurry Up and Save sales event. based on 2010 through 2018 calendar year sales. Modem must be activated within 60 days of purchase through the FordPass app on a smartphone and remain active for at least 6 months after activation. Eligible on select 2019 model year vehicles. Vehicle must have arrived at dealer at least 61 days prior to the sale date. Estimated savings include an average dealer discount based on a sales survey of average discounts offered by Ford dealers nationally. Discount may vary. Dealer determines price. For all offers, take new retail delivery from an authorized Ford dealer stock by 9/3/19. See participating dealer for complete details.
In the past hour, more earthquakes in California, though not nearly as strong as the quakes 2 weeks ago. Today's quake, magnitude 4.3, jolting Contra Costa County, centered just east of Black Hawk and felt in San Francisco and throughout the East Bay. No reports of damage or injuries. 50 years ago today, the historic flight to the moon began. To recount the experience from the launch pad.
As the moment came when Apollo 11 launched a half a century ago, sitting comfortably at the base of the launch pad, Michael Collins, now 88 years old, recalled staying in lunar orbit by himself as his colleagues walked the moon.
Perfectly enjoyable. I had hot coffee. I had music if I wanted it. Good old command module. Columbia had every facility that I needed, and it was plenty big, and I really enjoyed my time by myself instead of being terribly lonely.
Collins' lunar orbit brought him to the far and dark side of the moon, where he was totally cut off from mission control. Eben Brown, Fox News.
The anniversary of the moon landing is this Saturday, a record-setting day for a popular show in its final season.
As expected, Game of Thrones nabbed the most nominations, 32 in all. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel scored high with 20. HBO's hit Barry grabbed 17 nominations, which included Outstanding Comedy Series alongside Fleabag, The Good Place, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. MEMC Darcy Carden adds more.
Russian Doll, Schitt's Creek, and Veep.
After being bumped off by Netflix for the most wins per network last year, HBO is back thanks to its Westeros-based series, outstriding all the other networks by double digits with 137 nominations.
Fox's Michelle Polino, Netflix the runner-up for total Emmy nominations with 117. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones. The Iowa DCI has released more information on the 3 people found dead in a Bancroft home last week. Radio Iowa's Brian Wilson reports.
The investigation found that 22-year-old Mason Ulrich Cedarwall and 30-year-old Amy Lynn Manna, who lived in the residence, were shot to death. The third person found dead in the home was identified as 30-year-old Austin James Bernhard, also from Bancroft. Bernhard died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The investigation determined that Bernhard was Manna's ex-boyfriend and also discovered that he had been arrested on July 4th on charges of assault and burglary involving Cedarwall and Manna. Reporting from Algona, Brian Wilson for Radio Iowa.
31-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cornelius Gully has been charged with an alleged sexual assault that occurred in August of 2018. Gully is facing 1 count of second-degree sexual abuse, a Class B level felony. The allegations state that Gully threatened the woman's life if she did not listen to him. He has already been charged with first-degree burglary for breaking into the woman's home in the same incident. The trial for the burglary case is set for July the 23rd. In the matter of the alleged sexual abuse, Gully made his initial court appearance last week and was ordered to be held on a $25,000 cash-only bond. Gully's preliminary hearing for the sex abuse charge is set for this Friday. From Radio Iowa, after 7 years of litigation and a 6-week trial, a jury has decided former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad discriminated against a gay state official. The jury awarded former Workers' Compensation Commissioner Christopher Godfrey $1.5 million in damages. Roxanne Conlon is Godfrey's attorney.
It's important, indeed critical, that every single employee of the state of Iowa be treated fairly, that they be treated like a full human being. That did not happen to Chris Godfrey.
Conlon argued that Branstad did not have the authority to cut Godfrey's salary in an attempt to force him to resign.
It was about the way that the governor of the state of Iowa treated a very extraordinarily great workers' compensation commissioner, and the jury held the reason that he was treated like that is because he's gay. We all agree that's wrong.
Branstad is currently serving as a U.S. ambassador to China. He returned to Des Moines last month to testify in the case, telling the jury he's employed other gay employees and wanted Godfrey to resign because of complaints from the business community. A spokesman for Governor Kim Reynolds' office says they're disappointed in the verdict and are consulting with attorneys about an appeal. If the jury's decision stands, a judge is likely to order the state to pay Godfrey's legal bills. Taxpayers have already spent more than $1 million paying the private attorneys who defended Branstad's actions. A $1,300 grant was awarded to a local child care facility to complete projects. Kids Zone Christian Child Care and Preschool received the grant from an organization called Linking Families and Communities after they had initially applied in April. They put the grant to use in upgrades to the center in terms of science activities, improved inclusion and diversity, and new books, just to name a few. In sports, the Fort Dodge Dodger baseball team with a sweep of a doubleheader last night of Des Moines East, 6-3 in the first game behind a strong pitching performance by Anthony Wagner, making his first start of the season. The second game, the Dodgers exploded for a 5 spot in the first and were able to win 9-5. Mason Bakoven with 3 hits at the plate. Fort Dodge Dodgers softball in action tonight in the regional championship, taking on Ankeny, a 7 p.m. first pitch at Harlan Rogers. Dodger coach Andy Adams says the message to her team is clear.
The message is the same. Let's play our game. Let's do what we do. Let's stick to our game plan. Regardless of what team we play, we have to do what we do best. And that is play defense, score runs, have fun, and do what we do. You know what I mean? Throw in some great pitching, and you got a recipe for success.
Catch every pitch of the Dodgers regional championship game tonight at 7 p.m. on the Eagle 92.1. St. Edmunds baseball, they'll be in action tonight in the playoffs. The Gales will travel to Peterson to take on Sioux Central. That game, a 7 o'clock first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call of that game on Sunny 99.7. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update for today, July the 16th. From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD Weatherology forecast. An excessive heat watch begins at 1 p.m. tomorrow afternoon and continues until 7 p.m. Saturday night. Mainly cloudy skies this afternoon with a chance for scattered storms. High of 86, winds out of the southwest 5 to 10 miles per hour. Chance for scattered storms again tonight. Lows level off around 70. Cloudy skies expected. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 83.
If you're struggling with weight and frustrated with dieting each and every year, Mark Patrick Hypnosis can help. Join the over 500,000 people who have attended Mark Patrick Hypnosis programs with weight loss results. Mark Patrick Hypnosis will be in Fort Dodge on Wednesday, August 14th. Summer is here, so it's time to get back on track.
Since August, I can honestly say I have not had one potato chip.
It was life-changing for me.
And I don't think about desserts like I used to.
Bridget, how much have you lost now?
I lost a total of 83 pounds.
Holy cow.
It's easy, it's fun, very relaxing, and very successful. And I would just say go for it.
For only $49.99, lose all the weight you want, 100% guaranteed. Be at the Quality Inn and Suites on Highway 169 Fort Dodge, Wednesday, August 14th. Seminar time is from 5:30 till 7:30 p.m. Registration begins at 5. Attend this program and find out how the power of hypnosis can help you achieve your weight loss goals. Seating is limited, so get there early. Learn more at markpatrickseminars.com.
Is it time for a new roof, or did your roof take a beating from Mother Nature? If so, here's some great advice from Hahn Roofing. When you're trying to decide on a contractor, never tolerate high-pressure sales tactics. Never sign a contract without a price. Never make a payment until your job is done. And never accept a job that is not installed to manufacturer specifications. No warranty, no deal. Make the right choice. Call Hahn Roofing today at 515-573-7440. That's 515-573-7440. Hahn Roofing, an Owens Corning Platinum contractor.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
Well, let's go with it then. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Yes, 50 years ago today, men landed on the moon for the very first time, and it blew our collective minds. It did. To talk about that and other amazing things, Austin Hill.
Give more power to the people. There's some people up there hogging everything.
Give you a little God entry there, Austin. I really think the conversation that we had in the last segment, we should expand on it a little bit.
Sure.
What we're talking about here is that science has determined that that Christian belief in sin or immorality is no longer to be believed. That sociologists and psychologists have told us that identity is either a social construct or it's part of the DNA, and all of these beliefs that Christians have are oppressing people who cannot help but be who they are, whether it be gay or transgender or Rachel Dolezal, who wanted to switch, ethnicity. It was just wild. What answer do we have to that?
Well, I think God is at work through our biology and through the systems that we have discovered and been able to document. I don't think that means that God is any less at work. I think the more we study, the more we are beginning to kind of understand what God does. Like the guy, now I'm going to forget his name, but he was the guy that discovered, I think, the double helix in DNA. And I think he's famous for saying the DNA was like the fingerprint of God.
Sure.
And I think part of what he's getting at there is this idea that the more we study, the more we learn, even when we can describe phenomena and come to understand how the world works the way it does. To me, that is more evidence that there's a divine fingerprint on all of this.
We're not talking about belief in God now. We're talking about something else. Right?
Okay.
There are those who say we do believe in God. We do believe in the resurrections. We do not believe in in the condemnation. If I think that's really too strong a word, but it's the best one I got right now.
Sure.
In the condemnation of transgender people or people who tell us that their identity is not what it appears to you and I.
Mm-hmm.
It also tells us that the Christian marriage structure is wrong. And further, it indicts Christianity itself for poor treatment of women, of people of different faiths, for homosexuals, for gays, for blacks.
Anyone who is an other or
right, an other, right? Should we just plead guilty and go to hell, or what should we do here?
Well, I think in one sense, all that we do, I mean, it's some strange combination of our biology, of our background all around us, of our spirit, or of a spiritual presence, of our sin, or our desire to try to follow the example of Jesus. I mean, and in some mysterious way, I mean, we are all of those things. I mean, for a long time in psychology, there is this debate of nature versus nurture, right?
Yes.
Is the person the way they are because their genes made them that way? Or is the person the way they are because of their experiences? And the more people have studied that, the more they've come to see that that's a false question, because it's in some weird way, it's both of those things. And in fact, our experiences actually can change our physiology. I mean, your brain structure actually changes based on your experiences, based on the things you learn, based on the thought patterns that you have. And I do believe that there are spiritual forces at work as well. And so, I mean, you can't really parse it out into any one of those kinds of things. Now, ultimately, we still have to take responsibility for our actions.
We have to take responsibility for our actions as Christians and as the people who are engaging in behavior that we do not think is godlike.
Sure. And, any one of us in any situation, we always have a choice. Now, we might be more able or less able to make certain choices, but we always have the choice. But there are some fascinating studies or even just real life scenarios that have happened. Probably the most famous is Phineas Gage. I remember learning about this in my psychology, my intro psychology class in college. Phineas Gage was a railroad worker, and there was an accident, and like a railroad spike went through part of his head, and it took out part of his brain.
Right.
But he lived. But it completely changed his personality afterward. And so that raises profound questions about the human soul, about what makes a person a person. I mean, is it just their biology? Is it just what's happening in their brain? There have been other instances where people who've had tumors in certain parts of their brain have had temptations to molest people. And
and I want to stop you there. This is what Christians of another era would say. These impulses you're having are from the devil.
Mm-hmm.
These impulses, whether it be homosexuality or the desire to have an abortion or to molest children or to be transgender or whatever, these are impulses from the devil. We forgive you. We love you. We love you as Christians need to love each other, but we hate this sin.
Mm-hmm.
So are we saying that these behaviors are normal under the tenets of our faith or not? Do you believe?
Well, you listed a lot of different
Or are they
behaviors.
abnormal? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
All right, let's stick with transgenderism.
Sure.
I'll just pick one.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Since black people cannot help but be black,
sure.
Let's talk about transgenderism.
Yeah.
People who are transgender.
Yeah.
I'll give the gay folks a break today. So we have people who want to tell us that their identity is something that they have decided is not what is biologically their gift from God. Now, there are people who say, well, God made you this way. God does not make mistakes. And now you're saying that you're a woman, or vice versa. It doesn't make any difference.
Mm-hmm.
What is our response?
Well, and I think to clarify, there is a small percentage of people who are born where it's unclear in their genitalia what gender they are. I'm not talking about that.
I don't want to get involved with them.
Yeah. So I just want to
and
kind of segment that off.
There are people who are parents who lived into their 40s and older as a man or a woman who have wake up. Well, apparently it's not a case of waking up, but they come forward and say, I'm actually a member of the other sex, and they will start dressing as I'll just use the male.
Sure.
He'll start dressing as a woman, breast implants, the hormone treatment, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and so to get to that is what you're saying, where there's actually a desire to change one's physiology.
Correct.
Because of a experience or belief that that your body is not the body it should be. That's where sure, you've got to love everybody. You want to welcome everybody. Everyone is always welcome in the church. Anyone can come. They can join our church. They can participate in the life of our church, no matter what. I mean, sure. I would not, if it were, say, one of my children as an adult were saying, these are the feelings I'm having, mom or dad, what should I do? I personally, I could not say, go ahead and make these changes. I'm sure this is what God would want. I couldn't say that. I would say, let's do everything we can to find a way to be content with the body that God gave you. I do think God knit us together.
And why are we telling these folks this? Why are we saying be content with the body God gave you and the identity that God gave you?
Well, I think that goes back into the way that we were created, in that God, I don't think
God did not make a mistake, and you are making a mistake by insisting that you're a woman.
I don't think God makes junk. I don't think God makes mistakes. I think God makes us.
That's a Hallmark moment.
Yeah, exactly. But I really do think that. And now, but going back to the genetics and whatnot, there might be things that are a part of that a person might have a very real tendency to think a different way, or to feel like this isn't natural. I still don't think the answer is making those physiological, biological changes. I think for that person, maybe what they have to go through in life is to kind of figure that out. In the same way that people are more prone to alcoholism, that doesn't mean they're bad people. That doesn't mean they're, terrible or anything. It just means that they have addictive tendencies, and there's biological linkage to that. That addiction can actually be hereditary, and
certainly, yeah.
And so that doesn't mean that you say, oh, we'll just go ahead and kind of live out those addictive tendencies. No, not at all. But you also don't ostracize someone with addictive tendencies and say, well, you're not welcome or you're less than or anything. You meet those people where they are.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. We're talking with Pastor Austin Hill. Let's talk about black people for a while.
Okay.
50 years ago, we talked about that. It's 50 years ago today, men landed on the moon. 50 years ago today, there were still moron preachers somewhere, Goobers, Gomer Piles, somewhere that were preaching that slavery was justified by the Bible, that Christ favored slavery. And he believed obviously in a separation of the races.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that from the Bible myself, but I know there's slavery, and I don't believe I ever saw in the Bible or heard in the Bible that slavery was that African slaves were held by Caucasians. There was slavery the Romans were notorious slavers.
Mm-hmm.
All over their empire. They gathered slaves from across Europe as far away as Great Britain.
Yeah.
But what do we say to the justification for slavery?
Well, I think it's okay to point out that the Bible was written in a time that was very different than ours, where people
so is the Bible wrong?
I think there are some places where, sure, the Bible's wrong. I'm okay saying that. I think
so. It wasn't inspired by God, or was it inspired?
I think it can be inspired by God.
Well, I'm playing Mural with your mind today, aren't I?
Yeah, no, I think the Bible can definitely be inspired by God, and things can still be wrong. God made humans, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did.
And humans are not perfect. And we are some strange combination of this, fingerprint of the divine within us that we believe is there. We are made in God's image. And yet, because of sin, we make mistakes. So I don't know where we get this assumption that just because God created something, it has to be perfect.
Thank you for that fingerprint of the divine thing, by the way. My response has always been that the evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they were men who described the conditions of their time.
Uh-huh.
If we truly appreciate that the wisdom used to come from God. I mean, men spent their life in science and in worship.
Yeah.
And they prayed to better understand the mind of God so they could do their jobs better, whether they be scientists or engineers or soldiers or business people or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That was a golden time in the history of the universe, as far as I'm concerned, or history of our world anyway. That is no longer the case. But as time has gone by, as we continually sought God's wisdom, we saw that slavery was wrong. I would like to make a difference here between homosexuality and slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery was never explicitly condemned in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Homosexuality has been. I don't know what that means.
Well,
I don't know how to take that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do think there are things that have been explicitly condemned in the Bible that we have no problem accepting today.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I think that's where we've got to do that hard work of figuring out what are the things that are condemned in the Bible that we do still track with and try to live by today, when what are the things that are okay for us to disregard, because there are many things condemned in the Bible that we just don't really care about today.
Certainly, in prayer and contemplation, we have understood that women should have an equal place, not only in the church, but everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that their position should be determined by their merit.
But there are many Christians who would disagree with what you just said.
Yeah, I know there are, and I'm going to get to that. So we talk about women in the clergy. Now, the Catholic Church specifically, and I'm not asking you to pick on the Catholics, but there are other churches, other denominations within Christianity who believe that since St. Peter and all the apostles and all the evangelists and Jesus himself were the first Christians.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to put Jesus in there. First Christians. I don't know how to do it. Anyway, that our ministers should always be men.
The apostolic succession.
That's right. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. And And there can be a case made for that. Now, there can also be a case made for Jesus' continual inclusion of women and giving them real, significant opportunities for leadership, for evangelism, for telling the good news. As we said back during Easter and Holy Week and Pentecost, in that time that Mary that visited Jesus at the tomb, she was the first evangelist. It was a woman who was the first one to proclaim that Jesus had been risen. And there are lots of things that we could look at in the Bible to challenge the idea that it should only be men in leadership. But even still, I think there are parts of the Bible that I think we can just say are categorically they're just not true anymore about women. I mean, things saying that women are inferior. I mean, Paul straight up says that kind of stuff.
Paul says women are inferior.
I mean, he says
Paul drinking again, was he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is kind of the Austin Hill paraphrase, but I mean, it's very clear that for Paul there is a natural order of things,
right? And
men were above women.
Yes.
And I think it's okay for Christians today to say, I disagree with Paul and his perspective that he included in Scripture. And I still believe that the Bible is inspired by God.
I do as well. And I don't know if I've told you this before or whether you've heard this about me, but I don't have a reputation as a real liberal guy. Liberalism kind of gets on my nerves. Middle class liberalism. Now, radical leftism, I'm down with that. But liberalism, I'm just kidding. But liberalism did advance the cause of women, and I think that's a good thing. Again, I believe that we should have a further discussion on parenting.
Sure.
I don't think that kids should just be shuffled off to a daycare center with no thought as to their well-being. And any question of if you question a woman about that, I'm a sexist or something. No, my concern is always children. But we'll come back to this.
Sure.
Topic. We'll come back to this topic. Pastor Austin Hill has been our guest. Great to talk with you.
My pleasure.
This is AM 1400. Excuse me. AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD. Michael Devine. A lot of people like that show. Because you need more than a newspaper.
Email, online, surfing the web, HTML, good buddy.
At AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge, exactly 4:30. News, the obituaries, and David Fierig, not necessarily in that order. Coming up at AM 1400 KVFD.
I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. We're a full-service funeral home with an off-site crematory. At Bruce's, we specialize in pre-arrangements and family support before, during, and after the service. We also offer beautiful memorial items to help you remember your loved one forever. Bruce Funeral Home is proud to be by your side every step of the way throughout the funeral process. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge.
Market on Central is back. Make your way to downtown Fort Dodge this Saturday from 8:30 till 12:30. Market on Central has an incredible lineup of vendors and amazing entertainment. This week, enjoy the sounds of Rowan McCartney and Friends. Bring the whole gang and come check out the variety of artisans, giving you a mix of homemade goods, repurposed items, specials from downtown businesses, and delicious food. There's something for everyone this Saturday at Market on Central in historic downtown Fort Dodge. This week's platinum sponsor is Unity Point.
The iconic sound of Harley-Davidson. And it sounds even better when it's yours. Heat up your Saturday nights in July when you earn entries during Hot Harley Nights at Wild Rose Casino and Resort Jefferson. Check your mailer and wildroseresorts.com for bonus entries. Hit the road this summer on a new Harley-Davidson that you won at Wild Rose Casino and Resort Jefferson. You'd rather be here.
Must be 21 or older. If you or someone you know needs gambling treatment, call 1-800-BEDS-OFF.
You probably want to eat healthy, but getting enough organic fruits and vegetables into your diet every day is not only time-consuming, it's expensive. That's why at Texas Superfood, we've created a blend of the best USDA organic, vine-ripened fruits and vegetables, powerful enzymes and probiotics, and energizing herbs, all in a convenient capsule or powder. We call it Texas Superfood Complete Organic. Hi, I'm naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, and I invented Texas Superfood almost 20 years ago with one goal in mind: to help people like you who lead busy lives get the all-natural nutrition that every one of us needs and deserves. So if you can't, won't, or don't eat all your organic fruits and vegetables every day, Texas Superfood Complete Organic makes eating healthy easy. See our full line of quality nutritional products at texassuperfood.com or call us at 855-TEXAS-55. That's 855-TEXAS-55. texassuperfood.com.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones. The Iowa DCI has released more information on the 3 people found dead in a Bancroft home last week. Radio Iowa's Brian Wilson reports.
The investigation found that 22-year-old Mason Ulrich Cedarwall and 30-year-old Amy Lynn Manna, who lived in the residence, were shot to death. The third person found dead in the home was identified as 30-year-old Austin James Bernhard, also from Bancroft. Bernhard died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The investigation determined that Bernhard was Manna's ex-boyfriend and also discovered that he had been arrested on July 4th on charges of assault and burglary involving Cedarwall and Manna. Reporting from Algona, Brian Wilson for Radio Iowa.
31-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cornelius Gully has been charged with an alleged sexual assault that occurred in August of 2018. Gully is facing 1 count of second-degree sexual abuse, a Class B level felony. The allegations state that Gully threatened the woman's life if she did not listen to him. He has already been charged with first-degree burglary for breaking into the woman's home in the same incident. The trial for the burglary case is set for July the 23rd. In the matter of the alleged sexual abuse, Gully made his initial court appearance last week and was ordered to be held on a $25,000 cash-only bond. Gully's preliminary hearing for the sex abuse charge is set for this Friday. From Radio Iowa, after 7 years of litigation and a 6-week trial, a jury has decided former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad discriminated against a gay state official. The jury awarded former Workers' Compensation Commissioner Christopher Godfrey $1.5 million in damages. Roxanne Conlon is Godfrey's attorney.
It's important, indeed critical, that every single employee of the state of Iowa be treated fairly, that they be treated like a full human being. That did not happen to Chris Godfrey.
Conlon argued that Branstad did not have the authority to cut Godfrey's salary in an attempt to force him to resign.
It was about the way that the governor of the state of Iowa treated a very extraordinarily great workers' compensation commissioner, and the jury held the reason that he was treated like that is because he's gay. We all agree that's wrong.
Branstad is currently serving as a U.S. ambassador to China. He returned to Des Moines last month to testify in the case, telling the jury he's employed other gay employees and wanted Godfrey to resign because of complaints from the business community. A spokesman for Governor Kim Reynolds' office says they're disappointed in the verdict and are consulting with attorneys about an appeal. If the jury's decision stands, a judge is likely to order the state to pay Godfrey's legal bills. Taxpayers have already spent more than $1 million paying the private attorneys who defended Branstad's actions. A $1,300 grant was awarded to a local child care facility to complete projects. Kids Zone Christian Child Care and Preschool received the grant from an organization called Linking Families and Communities after they had initially applied in April. They put the grant to use in upgrades to the center in terms of science activities, improved inclusion and diversity, and new books, just to name a few. In sports, the Fort Dodge Dodger baseball team with a sweep of a doubleheader last night of Des Moines East, 6-3 in the first game behind a strong pitching performance by Anthony Wagner, making his first start of the season. The second game, the Dodgers exploded for a 5 spot in the first and were able to win 9-5. Mason Bakoven with 3 hits at the plate. Fort Dodge Dodgers softball in action tonight in the regional championship, taking on Ankeny, a 7 p.m. first pitch at Harlan Rogers. Dodger coach Andy Adams says the message to her team is clear.
The message is the same. Let's play our game. Let's do what we do. Let's stick to our game plan. Regardless of what team we play, we have to do what we do best. And that is play defense, score runs, have fun, and do what we do. You know what I mean? Throw in some great pitching, and you got a recipe for success.
Catch every pitch of the Dodgers Regional Championship game tonight at 7 p.m. on the Eagle 92.1. St. Edmunds baseball, they'll be in action tonight in the playoffs. The Gales will travel to Peterson to take on Sioux Central. That game, a 7 o'clock first pitch. You can hear Brian Peters on the call on that game on Sunny 99.7. That's your Alpha Media News and Sports update for today, July the 16th. From the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom, I'm Rob Jones.
This is AM 1400 KVFT, the Boys Fort Dodge 437. In the weather, first of all, it's 83 degrees and cloudy. It's a much cooler day than the weekend. There will be thunderstorm showers through the early evening, overnight, that sort of thing. Our low overnight will be 70 degrees. Tomorrow, same thing, sunny, some showers, high 90. It'll be windy. On Thursday, sunny with a high of 93. Friday, sunny with a high of 96. On Saturday, mostly sunny with a high of 92. Sunday, it'll be sunny with a high of 85 degrees. Next Monday, sunny with a high of 83. Right now, it is 83 degrees under a cloudy sky at AM 1400 KVFD. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Scott Grote has died. Scott Grote of Fort Dodge has passed away at the age of 59. He died on Monday at Trinity Regional Medical Center. There will be a service for Scott Grote here in town this Friday. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. 4:39, City Manager David Furick is in the studio. We'll talk with him next.
From the Fox Business Network, the major averages closing lower as President Trump said an agreement with China on trade tariffs had a long way to go. And a trio of the country's largest banks reported mixed quarterly results, with the Dow snapping a 4-day winning streak, closing down 24 points, NASDAQ down 35, S&P 500 down 10. And shares of Johnson & Johnson dragging on the Dow today. The pharmaceutical giant reported a 42% hike in profits and raised its sales forecast for the year. Still, its shares closed lower as its legal issues overshadowed its positive earnings results. And shares of Blue Apron rallying the most since going public 2 years ago after the meal kit provider said it will add Beyond Meat products to its menus in mid-August. Blue Apron has struggled to grow a loyal subscriber base and has turned to partnerships with grocery stores and Weight Watchers to help boost its business. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Hillary Barsky.
And now, the worst commercial ever.
I'm just your average, everyday, hardworking plumber. But when it comes to my business, only the best. Like commercial auto and business insurance through Progressive. They help design a customized insurance solution that gets the job done right. Just like me.
An actor trying to sound like a plumber. Excruciating. Whereas commercial auto and business insurance through Progressive is anything but. Visit progressivecommercial.com to quote today. Insurance provided and serviced by Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. It's affiliated and third-party insurers.
To keep your vehicle running at its best, keep up with routine maintenance. The certified service techs at Humboldt Motor Sales make maintaining your vehicle easy. They offer convenient hours and competitive prices on all service and parts. And they take care of your GM warranty needs too. From oil changes to tires, brakes to batteries, engine repair and transmission repair, Humboldt Motor Sales can handle it all. Have your vehicle serviced soon at Humboldt Motor Sales. Log on to HumboldtGM.com to schedule an appointment now or call 800-566-8671.
The Pink Tag Sale is going on now at the General Store. Come in and take 50% off everything with the Pink Tag. This is the perfect time to shop for summer. From shorts, sandals, and tanks to skirts, dress shirts, and capris, the General Store has something for everyone. Look for the Pink Tag and save 50%. And remember, everything at the General Store is tax-free, and all proceeds go toward helping people in our community. Hurry in now and save 50% on everything with the Pink Tag at the General Store, 12 North 25th, Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine, the mayor of Manville.
It's a fancy title for a part-time job.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right, I'm the mayor of Manville. AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our guest is David Furick, who I guess is the city manager of Manville.
I guess till 5 o'clock I am.
Until
right?
5 o'clock, you're the city manager of Manville. Very, very good. There's that Memrick guy. He still claims to be Memrick here, but I don't think so. So we're moving forward with this giant pig out on 10th Avenue North, Floyd of Rosedale.
Well, the plans are coming along. They're busy in the fundraising stage right now. Did
Floyd did this idea Floyd of Rosedale what we're talking about?
Yes.
And this pig is pretty big.
Yeah, I don't know the exact scale, but it's going to be of scale on the roundabout to be big. I think it might be 6 feet high, 12 feet wide. I mean, I don't know.
In there somewhere. Well, I've heard even bigger than that.
Could be. I'm not again 100% sure of where they're at as far as determining exact specs and how big it is.
Now, did this pig idea come from city staff or the council, or did the council ask staff to come up with some ideas, or how did this come out?
Well, if you go way back to the start of this, if you know that Rosedale Rapids, the pool, was named because that was the old Rosedale Farms.
Sure, it was, yeah.
And the land was donated by Tom and Norma Schmoker to put Rosedale Rapids in the park. That's why I called Schmoker. Schmoker Family Park and Rosedale Rapids Aquatic Center. He wanted Rosedale. He wanted Rosedale in the name, and he wanted the Schmoker name in there. So we did that, and that's where I started learning the story that the Floyd of Rosedale, which I remember back because I've been a college football fan forever.
Right.
The trophy, and then so we had the park, we have the name there, we're recognizing the name. We initially started talking about, hey, what else could we do? And we have some signs out there, some signboards by the trail that identify the history of the Rosedale Farms and the trophy, the Floyd of Rosedale pig. And then we went down the path of trying to see if we could create not just an open shelter, which was the initial plans, but try to create a kind of a 3 or 4 season closed shelter with bathrooms, make it really cool, make it more even an interpretive center, talking about the history of farming, the old Rosedale Farm and all the history there. Turned out that doing that closed shelter and trying to do restrooms at that place in the park was going to be incredibly expensive. So we kind of got away from that. And we're trying to figure out how else to kind of recognize the history. And that's where we came up with doing the bronze likeness of Floyd of Rosedale. So that's where we came with that. And now we're talking about doing it on the roundabout.
So are you telling me this is where it came from the council then?
Actually, Dave Flattery is the
Dave Flattery is kind of the driving
leader.
force.
He's the driving force.
Leader of the band.
Yeah.
And Dave's,
the proud Cyclone.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. University of Iowa football game, and we got an Iowa State guy pushing it. That's okay. But Dave, this is Dave's hometown. He loves his hometown, and he loves this connection.
He loves the story. He loves the story of not only the story that led up to the football game and the animosity between Minnesota and
justified animosity.
Iowa.
We should have declared war on Minnesota. Actually,
we probably would have won.
Well, maybe.
But then. And then led to the trophy and the original live pig, and then moving to the actual.
I guess
trophy.
I question, and I'd have to get Dave in here. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I just question the aesthetics of having a pig out on the 10th Avenue. I have no problem with this really great little trivia history of our town and our area. It is a story worth keeping alive. I really believe that. But by a pig, I'm always reminded, and I've said this several times in the air, of that statue down in the Merle Hay Mall for many years, a naked angel on a tricycle, and an anatomically correct, well endowed naked angel on a tricycle in the Merle Hay Mall. The city,
was it a male or female angel?
It was a male, and it was commissioned by some people in Des Moines with an artist from Chicago. And at the time, it was thought this big city guy was having a little fun with the rubes from Iowa. Oh, you want something? Here's this. I'll call it art, and you can't push back on that idea because, well, you're rubes and Philistines, and I'll call you names if you do. So, that naked angel sat down there for 20-some years.
Well, I think that, again, it's all my opinion. I guess public art is always in the eye of the beholder, and it's everyone's opinion. But one of the cool things about public art,
It is, but a pig is a pig.
Well, but in general, public art, what it does is it gets people's attention, and some people love it, some people hate it. When we put the parade down there, some people hated the parade that's down on 8th Street and
I understand.
5th Avenue South. Or
Is that what that's called, the parade?
It's called the parade.
I thought it was great. I still think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool, but some people hated it. Some people don't like what we put on the grain silos.
Well,
Some people-
the parade. Some people don't like what we put on the grain silo.
Yeah.
They are sick human beings, and should get out of town or the country.
Wow, where'd you get that quote from?
I just made it up.
Yeah,
you
sure.
can use it if you want to.
No,
Get out of town and the country.
I will not use that.
No, we were right in the middle, as you recall, when the parade thing was done. We were everybody was freaked because taxpayer money was being wasted, and there was a rumor going around, and I'm sure it was fueled by some council people and some characters around coffee shops in town, that we spent a lot of money on that parade sculpture, and I believe it was handled by private donation. Wasn't
Yeah,
it?
the Deerdorf bought it. Deerdorf Foundation bought it. I think it was $100,000,
Yeah,
maybe 150.
I do have a story to tell you,
Yeah.
and you were actually in the room for this. I'm sure you don't remember, but I've mentioned on the air several times.
Physically and mentally.
Physically and mentally, you may have been high. I don't know.
No,
but I wasn't that particular night. I was at a city council meeting, and a very nice lady. That particular night.
It was good to be a radio guy.
It's not good to be a radio guy and to be old.
Yeah.
What are they going to do to you when
Yeah.
you're my age? Anyway, that particular night, I was not high, and I was at this meeting. I was at the city council meeting, and this really nice lady, late 30s, I suppose, went up to the podium when it was time for public questions, and she wanted to know why $1 million was spent on the river logo on the courthouse.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
did this city do that? And she asked very nicely and politely, but she was clearly upset. And I thought, you poor lady, somebody filled you full of, well, hog stuff.
Mhm.
And Matt was the mayor and kindly explained it was a county project and it cost $80,000.
Yeah.
The city had nothing to do with it at all. But those are the kinds of bizarre rumors that go around town. If we didn't have that river logo over on the county building in the law enforcement center, that would look like a building that belongs in the center of Moscow, just a big white block building, ugly as hell,
Oh, I thought
but
it was
that
really
river,
cool.
that river logo really does
Oh,
something.
that was
for it.
awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Oh, I do
Like it
too.
lights up at night. Yeah.
I absolutely do. But that's what I'm trying to get to. I mean,
Yeah, that's like some talk of should the county, and again, it's not my issue, so I'm not. Well, I guess I will give an opinion. The county not redoing the clock tower. I mean, how could you not redo the clock tower? I mean, that's iconic for the whole area.
I understand that, and Keith Dinklaw is adamant about it. When Keith gets adamant, you can't talk to him. I'll tell you, but
He talks faster when he gets adamant.
He does,
Yeah.
and he hears less. His ears turn right off. I'll tell you. I guess, and I was one of the ones who was asking some questions about this. Why don't we build a new courthouse? And of course, that didn't work at all because we had just put some money into the old courthouse, and this one was historic and
it's beautiful.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a beautiful building.
It is beautiful, but there's going to be a time when we need a new one. And I thought maybe the time had arrived, 'Cause that's a good piece of change to sink into that clock.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't.
I mean,
it is public art, and it's an iconic piece.
I
of
suppose you could
architecture
describe it
in the
that way
community.
now.
Yeah.
At the time, it was just for people to tell time.
Well, what time it is.
A lot of people didn't have watches.
Yeah.
Now we all have watches and cell phones and every other damn thing, So
And-
we know what time it is.
Yeah, and I can hear the tower where I work, so I know when I'm late for a meeting or something. When it goes off, I'm like, oh crap, I'm supposed to be somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we still have the church bells, don't we? Do we still have church bells?
Yeah, I can hear.
Or did
I
we
can hear
run the
some of those
churches
too,
out
but,
of town?
But some of they don't go off every hour, do they? I just know I hear a clock tower every hour.
I don't know. Did the Democrats run the churches out of town and close them all and build and bulldoze them and build statues of Stalin in their place?
Why'd you ask me that question?
I'm just wound up again today. Just wound up again today. What else is going on at the city? I'll bring us back down to earth here a little bit.
Well, it's an exciting time. It's late July in Fort Dodge. Girls State softball is next week.
Really?
So yeah.
Wow.
So we're all geared up. Parks and Rec department obviously is in super high mode. This will be the first Girls State without Jim Winter. So
Oh, that's
I'm
right.
sure we'll folks will step up and do a great job. But yeah, he's been a mainstay there for years, and so I think that's got Lori a little more nervous. But we'll see. I think it'll be fine. So yeah, one thing is
Jim had his first day on the job
Yeah,
too. You know, we
everybody
all
does.
did.
So anything folks can do to kind of spruce up the area around their house or around the neighborhood to make the visitors see Fort Dodge in a better light. We appreciate that. Keep thinking about cleaning up, and city folks can't get to all the trash all the time. So if you see something out there, maybe make an extra effort of helping the community show better. It's good for everybody. It's good for retail and business. In addition, I'd be remiss to not mention that the Dodgers girls softball team plays tonight at 7:00 in the regional finals. So if they if they beat Ankeny tonight, they go to state. So
outstanding.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they don't get too much rain.
I don't think it's going to rain before that. It's supposed to rain later, I think.
I hope
that's
not.
just my opinion or my observation from the Weather Channel. But yeah, so there's exciting things going on with both softball
That's
tonight.
great to have those kids in town.
Yeah.
The whole
Yeah.
town has energy, because they're everywhere and they're young
Yeah.
girls and they're just bubbling with enthusiasm and
Yeah.
they're kind of away from home and it's pretty exciting for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
It's just way cool.
And we've been hosting it for
Years,
very, very long, decades, over a long time. So it's it becomes kind of iconic. Hey, we're going to Fort Dodge, and this is, I guess, a neat year. Also, this is the 50th anniversary of Harlan Rogers Park.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you know that today, 50 years ago, men landed on the moon for the first time?
Was it today?
Today.
I thought today was a takeoff, and they
No,
landed on Saturday. or
No, I
something.
think this was it.
I could be wrong, but I thought I heard that.
Pastor Hill came in and said that. And that's the word of God as far as I'm concerned. So he came in and looked it up on his phone. And if his phone says it, that's it.
I was, what would I have been, about 13 days old.
Oh, is that all?
I was born July 3rd.
No, I had a hangover, I remember. Rip roaring. But but it was great. It was a momentous occasion.
Yeah.
Just remember being chilled, going, wow, I had a great time last night. If only I could remember it. But I said that a lot in those days. David Sherrick is our guest. He is the city manager, City of Fort Dodge. If you have a question or comment for the city manager, it's 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. Ask, you shall receive.
Cool.
Good afternoon. You are on the air with the city manager.
Today was the day they launched. They landed on the moon on July 20th.
Are you sure? Pastor Hill said this was the day that they landed, and that's pretty impressive, Pastor Hill.
Maybe God was teasing him today.
God could have been messing with his mind a little bit. All right. Well, thank you for clearing that up.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I wasn't hungover today. Then, 50 years ago. Or was I?
So was it the day of the landing?
The day of the landing was
You were
I was-
hungover?
Oh,
You
yeah,
hungover
the
the
day
day after the landing?
No,
Was
no,
it a big
I-
party?
I was sitting in George's house with some other guys, and we had a little black and white TV, and we were watching the actual landing on the moon and going.
Wow.
And we were all burned out and stuff. Going, wow, this is really cool.
Wow.
This is really something else, and it really was, as it turned out to be. A couple of years later, they were playing golf on the moon, but I haven't heard there hasn't been too many people on the moon lately.
No. Now they're all talking about going to Mars, which
They're going to
just
put
farther
men
away.
on.
Yeah. I mean, it's not for years, decades even, but another achievement farther away.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. That'll be another impressive one.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I thought I'd be dead before all these things happened, but I shouldn't say that. So the fireworks season came off without a hitch, pretty much. I mean, there was some.
I think we were mild. I didn't get a latest tally from Chief Porter on how many tickets we've issued or
I
complaints.
did. Well, he was in here.
Week, was it last week we got that?
He told me about
last week. I don't know.
Last year's complaints were like 640 some,
and we're down to
200 and some.
So that's good.
Yeah, that was real good. And there were some tickets issued, but not as many, probably because they learned to hide. But there's. And I went out into Fort Frenzy and had a nice evening, as many people did. So what we had hoped would happen with fireworks is happening. The novelty is worn off. There's no need to go out and spend $100 just to blow up your neighborhood, and blow up $100 bill.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it. Have a little fun. I had some firecrackers. That's all I needed. All I needed.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting to know about the softball game tonight.
Yeah. Tonight at 7:00. It'll be
Tonight, 7:00.
And then if they win, they'll be playing Monday or Tuesday. I don't know the exact schedule next week, but state starts Monday, and half the teams play Monday in their first round. Half the teams play Tuesday. Then I think they have Wednesday is the I'm going on memory, so I could be wrong. Lori could be saying, "Oh no, it's not that way." And I think Wednesday is usually the what do they call that? The round with when they lose the first round, then they play Wednesdays, and then Thursday and Friday is Thursday semis, Fridays finals.
Well,
I think
I
that's
tell
still
you,
the plan.
girls softball is not what it used to be. I mean, these girls are top athletes, boy. They really are.
Yeah.
They throw the ball like a bullet. There's no
Oh,
such thing
my
as
gosh.
throwing like a girl anymore.
It's fast.
It really is.
It's
you know.
fast.
My daughter-in-law is a softball pitcher at St. Edmunds in her
Oh, yeah?
day, and I watched her at a college reunion over in Dubuque. Man, she can throw that ball.
Yeah. I don't know how you hit that thing. I mean,
I don't-
first of all,
I
it's
don't either.
short distance from the plate. You know, from the mound of the plate. How you can even react and hit that ball that's going that fast.
What's going on? We have a city council meeting next Monday?
Yep.
All right. And do you know the agenda right off the top of your head?
Well, it's not finalized. I don't really think there's anything that's that. I don't know. I say big a deal. I mean, yeah, I can't think off the top of my mind. I can't think of anything that's like that earth
That
shattering.
huge, yeah. All right.
You know, we got a few things in progress, but you know, we're kind of nothing big now.
Summer's kind of mellow, isn't it?
Usually it is. You know, there are tempos and rhythms to cities, and usually between Thanksgiving and Christmas it's kind of mellow, and then
Yeah,
also
mellow,
about this
we're
time
all
of
the-
summer it gets kind of mellow.
David Ferrick, thank you.
You're welcome.
AM 1400 KVFT.
Congratulations to Good Samaritan Society Manson on their recent 5-star rating awarded by the Federal Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Good Samaritan Manson received a perfect 5-star rating for their outstanding health inspection results, staffing ratios, and quality of care. Their compassionate and dedicated team of employees sets them apart from other senior living centers in the area. To learn more, visit good-sam.com or drop by anytime. Good Samaritan Society Manson, when someone you care about needs caring for.
In today's economy, it just makes sense to plan ahead. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, pre-planning your funeral arrangements can save you money. By planning ahead, you can secure your arrangements at today's prices, no matter when our services are needed. Pre-planning your funeral is one of the most thoughtful things you can do for your family. Call us for details. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice of Fort Dodge. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow. It's 5 o'clock.
Straight talk on life and money. This is the Dave Ramsey Show on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Condemnation. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. The House taking up a measure on remarks and tweets from President Trump targeting 4 Democratic congresswomen of color. Fox's Jared Halpern live on Capitol Hill.
While urging colleagues to support a resolution condemning racist tweets and remarks by the president towards members of Congress, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi violated House rules.
Characterizing an action as racist is not in order.
House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer delivering the verdict, ruling the words uttered by Speaker Pelosi should not be used in debate. A party line vote followed, allowing the Speaker's remarks to stand. Another party line vote has also reinstated Speaker Pelosi's speaking privileges, lost when a member is found to be out of order. Lisa.
Jared, the president again going after the congresswomen today.
What they did and the way they're treating Israel is a disgrace. But not only Israel, it's what they say about our country. It's my opinion they hate our country. And that's not good.
The president making the comments during a cabinet meeting, adding the lawmakers should love America and work for the good of the country. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell defending the president, saying he's not a racist.
He said, I don't attack people, I attack ideas. And I think that's a good lesson for all of us. From the president to the speaker to freshman members of the House, all of us have a responsibility to elevate the public discourse.
And he says everyone should, as he put it, lower the incendiary rhetoric. Wall Street at the close, stocks ending the day broadly lower, breaking a 5-day winning streak for the S&P. Tech companies posted some of the biggest losses. The Dow fell 23, the Nasdaq off 35, the S&P slipped down 10 points. German pharmaceutical giant Bayer AG closing its crop science division headquarters in North Carolina, moving outside St. Louis. This is Fox News.
When the sand gets hot, you gotta move fast, like a dog chasing a Frisbee. Move just as fast to the Ford Hurry Up and Save sales event. Because for the first time ever, you can get 20% estimated savings on select Ford vehicles, plus earn complimentary maintenance through Ford Pass Rewards. Don't let this hot deal on America's best-selling brand pass you by. Get into the Ford Hurry Up and Save sales event. Based on 2010 through 2018 calendar year sales. Modem must be activated within 60 days of purchase through the Ford Pass app on a smartphone and remain active for at least 6 months after activation. Eligible on select 2019 model year vehicles. Vehicle must have arrived at dealer at least 61 days prior to the sale date. Estimated savings include an average dealer discount based on a sales survey of average discounts offered by Ford dealers nationally. Discount may vary. Dealer determines price. For all offers, take new retail delivery from an authorized Ford dealer stocked by 9/3/19. See participating dealer for complete details.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
Good afternoon from the Jerry Sheeter Newsroom. I'm Rob Jones. The Iowa DCI has released more information on the 3 people found dead in a Bancroft home last week. Radio Iowa's Brian Wilson reports.
The investigation found that 22-year-old Mason Ulrich Cedarwall and 30-year-old Amy Lynn Manna, who lived in the residence, were shot to death. The third person found dead in the home was identified as 30-year-old Austin James Bernhard, also from Bancroft. Bernhard died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The investigation determined that Bernhard was Manna's ex-boyfriend and also discovered that he had been arrested on July 4th on charges of assault and burglary involving Cedarwall and Manna. Reporting from Algona, Brian Wilson for Radio Iowa.
31-year-old Fort Dodge resident Cornelius Gully has been charged with an alleged sexual assault that occurred in August of 2018. Gully is facing 1 count of second-degree sexual abuse, a Class B level felony. The allegations state that Gully threatened the woman's life if she did not listen to him. He has already been charged with first-degree burglary for breaking into the woman's home in the same incident. The trial for the burglary case is set for July the 23rd. In the matter of the alleged sexual abuse, Gully made his initial court appearance last week and was ordered to be held on a $25,000 cash-only bond. Gully's preliminary hearing for the sex abuse charge is set for this Friday. From Radio Iowa, after 7 years of litigation and a 6-week trial, a jury has decided former Iowa Governor Terry Branstad discriminated against a gay state official. The jury awarded former Workers' Compensation Commissioner Christopher Godfrey $1.5 million in damages. Roxanne Conlon is Godfrey's attorney.
It's important, indeed critical, that every single employee of the state of Iowa be treated fairly, that they be treated like a full human being. That did not happen to Chris Godfrey.
Conlon argued that Branstad did not have the authority to cut Godfrey's salary in an attempt to force him to resign.
It was about the way that the governor of the state of Iowa treated a very extraordinarily great workers' compensation commissioner, and the jury held the reason that he was treated like that is because he's gay. We all agree that's wrong.
Branstad is currently serving as a U.S. ambassador to China. He returned to Des Moines last month to testify in the case, telling the jury he's employed other gay employees and wanted Godfrey to resign because of complaints from the business community. A spokesman for Governor Kim Reynolds' office says they're disappointed in the verdict and are consulting with attorneys about an appeal. If the jury's decision stands, a judge is likely.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios, it's the Dave Ramsey Show, where Dad is Dom, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I'm Dave Ramsey, your host. You jump in, we'll talk about your life and your money. It's a free call at 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Walter is with us in Yuma, Arizona. Hey, Walter, welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure. What's up?
So my wife and I are doing very well. We're on baby step 2. We've cleared out all of our credit card debt, and we're about to turn the corner